Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 763. Boy, do I got a good one for you guys this evening. I had a pleasure to meet this gentleman at the Organics Cup, and what a story he has for us this evening. Chuck, how you doing this evening? You want to tell everybody how you're doing and where they can find you?
Oh, I'm doing really great, Eagle. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, we run a little caregiver operation called CAO Craft Farms. That's CAO Craft Farms. That's with a Z. We just got a little private Facebook page. That's it. We're here in Michigan, and we grow and we do everything for health.
For the good reasons, my friend. So I like to start this out right in the beginning. I know that I don't want to, divulge too much, but I know cannabis saved your life. But when did it all start? When was the first time that cannabis came into your life? Was this the first time you smoked or seen the plant?
Cannabis originally came into my life when I was younger. Late teens. Not gonna say I was smoking it to save my life, of course, because I was a kid and having fun. Looking back at, of course, it had many health benefits, even back then. That we were just unaware of, and it's really been it. There's been some on and some offs. I worked overseas for a while. And of course, during that, you got to run up and back. So that you got to take a little break in the middle. But other than that, I just think it's a miracle plant that's just got some amazing properties that can assist many people with many things, from physiological ailments to psychological ailments, and dare I say it, even the terminal ailments. And I just think it's gotten a bum rap, and I think it's time that people got the message.
It is the time. I think they're losing the message. I think we're losing the message, to be honest with you.
I think it's gone too commercial, Eagle. I think with and don't get me wrong, I understand business is business, and we're built on capitalism. But I think that the message has gone commercial in general. It's all about products. And here, I'll give you an example here. As I said, we're pretty much focused on the medicine. We make our own oils, as you're well aware of, our own fully extracted cannabis oils. We also make a topical ointment made of our oils. But then, as I said, medicine comes in many forms. And for our patients, some of them, need some psychological benefit. So, this is our general puck. And what you'll notice is there's no commercial on it. It's just a simple, basic, organic, natural living puck with our rosins. And so it's not flashy. It's not Shazam. Here I am. Pay me an extra $20 because I'm the corporate dog. It's a caregiver operation. So we keep it simple. We keep it plain. We keep it natural. And it just seems to be perfect. It's not about trying to sell the benefit of the plant. It's about keeping it natural for the benefit of the patient to us.
So I guess a good question is, how did cannabis affect your life? In the medical sense.
Well, let's touch on it. I don't even think that the hours that we can commit can probably take us through the entire story. But we'll touch on it. I got a little bit ill. I've always been, since car wreck, a very hobbled up old man. But I got a little bit internally ill. Back in 2014. And the medical field wanted nothing to do with me because there was nothing they could do with me. With that said, of course, they just wanted some billings. It was pancreatic cancer. So I through some connections that I have, I found out about, again, fecal oils. You know, they're wonderful, wonderful oils. And we'll share some more information on them connections later. But in any case, and I was given a very grim diagnosis. It wasn't very, very good for me at all. And man, I just wasn't ready. So we did something crazy. I had a very supportive wife. I did a total of 150 grams in a 24-hour period, just to throw it up. Just to throw it up. Did that for months and months. But here I am. Now my maintenance dose today is extreme. No one really knows what it should be. Because again, it was a very extreme situation. It was right at the end. And that doesn't mean I suggest or promote anything for anyone at the end. I'm saying it worked for me. However, I still take 15 grams of fecal daily as my maintenance dose, and it works wonderful. I was declared cancer-free January 4th of this year. A lot of doctors, went through a lot of doctors. Pretty much did the entire treatment 100% cannabis. We had disruptions in the medical, with doctors not agreeing with my choices, my family's choices, my wife's choices. So we did it. Yeah, that's it. That's where it sits.
How much of the medical jargon did you take before you actually turned to the fecal?
About 10 minutes. About 10 minutes. It was a brash situation in a hospital that we won't name, of course. And again, when they tell you that your options are nil, it wasn't hard to make a decision that if your options are nil, why are you going to spend them? Even if cannabis didn't save my life, why would I spend my time in the hospital if they're not going to help me anyway? You know, and that was it.
It seems like that's when the medical system really starts to try to pick you clean instead of, doing the right thing, to be honest with you.
Well, a friend of mine and I, very, very good friend, and his wife were having a conversation just a few hours ago. Nothing to do with this, just about a service. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a great service. I think it used to be properly directed, hospice. And when you say picking clean, I mean, that's one of the largest billable services, utilized today in the medical billing industry is through hospice care. And I think it's just terrible that we're teaching people to accept to lie down instead of fight and kick and scream. And they just want to lie down. They don't want to fight. They don't want you to fight because you're getting paid for your life. And that's, that's my personal opinion, of course, but that's what it is. And I believe this. In the opinion of others. So, who knows? But you're right. It is when they want to pick your claim. They want to know about your health insurance, about the property you own. They want to know about all of it. And just want none of their damn business.
It is. It just seems like the medicine, it not just the doctors themselves. It seems like the medication is geared towards picking you clean. A lot of that medication that you really need through them times is, outrageously priced. And it seems like, them knowing that it's for a live or die situation, it seems like that's where the breaks should be given, and the more frivolous designer drugs that's where they should be socking people, in my opinion.
Well, what's really interesting about what you're saying is you're absolutely right. Some of those treatments are conventional treatments are so ridiculous. It's asinine, to put it bluntly. Specifically when we know that, the base of it is, and has been founded from mustard gas. So it's not like somebody created it for the medical breakthroughs, that they found a secondary reason for a killer agent to be a medical treatment. In the meantime, what we have happening, in my opinion, is when I got sick, it was very, very expensive. It was typical of $50 to $80 a gram. So it was very, very expensive. And so one of the commitments we made for our patients is to keep everything at cost and to do only the premium under the same conditions that was done for me with myself. Because again, you get to the cost and you think to yourself, these poor people are at the end of their life. Trust me, they're worried about college, mortgage. They're worried about much more than you'll worry about their cost.
So I'm curious, so how long from the start of your own treatments? And I guess before I ask that, were you into cannabis at all? I mean, were you able to produce your own medicine?
Off and on at the time. I was going up and back to Europe at the time. I was on a medical regime for years that was just silly, stupid. And I just haven't looked back since. Fecal oil. For, as I said, I had my physical conditions and such, and just not really needed. I mean, I found that nature, will provide if we're given an opportunity, but we've got to be open-minded and given an opportunity and not think that, oh my Lord, that grew from the ground, that grew out the dirt. Most things have, even our aspirin, comes from the tree. So we have to give nature an opportunity, and we have to give, more importantly, people an opportunity to have a choice to treat the way they want to treat and how they want to treat. Maybe stop convincing them that they're sick and they're going to die. So let's go through hospice. I have a gentleman that takes the oil, and stage 3 wanted to put him on hospice because they said that he was untreatable. With the oil just recently, he had stents removed from his bronchial passages because the tumors are no longer there. Another tumor has shrunk from 11 millimeters to 7 millimeters with no other treatments. So, people do have options. It's just dependent if they're willing to take that step to go to them options. And the other problem that we have in this caregiving industry is simple, and this is not throwing anyone under the bus, but it's just what it is. Unfortunately, we have culprits that, same thing happened to me when I became ill. They'll sell you anything and they'll tell you anything that you want to hear. Right in our own industry, as long as they're making a buck. So I always tell everyone, I don't care where you're getting your medicine from, make sure it's a good, reputable source and stick with your source. Don't change your source just because someone else sold you something different, because, I could change the physiological breakdown and the metabolics, the metabolic breakdown of the medication through your system if they're made in different processes. And the question is when it's your life, why, if you have something that you believe in and is working or maybe working for you.
So you mentioned like not mixing it up. I could see that to be very important, but is the cultivar, you know what I mean? Is that a big piece of the puzzle, or is it medicine is the medicine?
I'm saying the what?
does the cultivar, how big of a difference does the cultivar or the strain make in
Oh,
the
that's a
equation?
huge difference. And I'm sorry, that's just, to me, that's something that I just probably take for granted after this point. They're really what you would like to utilize. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to this rule. I mean, it depends on what you're treating, really. But in our case, like I said, I've treated cancer, some other issues as well. However, primarily for cancer, we like to use a true indica, or at least a 90% leaning indica. And that's really, really important to us. However, there are a couple of breast cancers out there that have proven down in New Zealand to fight best with sativa strain. So we're gonna veer into that just a touch as well. We've helped people with tremors from Parkinson's with microdosing fecal oils throughout the days as well, and it really does an amazing job for the patients with the tremors. It takes the Parkinson's away, but it gives them a much further and higher quality of life just by stopping them tremors to a degree. Wound management, we have a salve for patients that has just been great for wound management. It's got 3,200 milligrams of THC medication in it altogether, in a 4-ounce salve jar, and it's just really done some amazing things for people post-surgery, just open wounds in general. So it's just an amazing medication that's just been so far overlooked. And now, and I understand some people's hesitancy to it, because I mean, you really think about it, and there's so many different products out there. So many different products. I mean, even for our patients, we don't carry a lot of products, but I mean, I think to myself, are they really necessary? And the fact is, yes. We make a live rosin. Why do we make a live rosin? Because many of our patients need a psychological relief and more of an instant relief. So, and we want to do live rosin because, once again, it's naturally made without solvent. And that's one of our goals for everything we can do, is stay just all natural, all organic 100% of the time. We've got a great team, established, very, very small caregiver team, but a great team, like no other. And the same with the ointments. Everything are beeswax in it, is locally sourced. Once again, all organic. We try to do everything that way. And of course, with the fecal, we can't, but we can resort to utilizing the same food grade stripping agent every time with our fecal agent. And that's about as nearly organic as we can get, as much as I hate to say that, but I mean, it's just what it is to bring the medicine out. But we do got a wonderful, very long final purge process. And we got a second to none filtration process that's taking those suspensions out of the oil. It's my belief, correct or incorrect, I'm certainly not a rocket scientist, but it's my belief, when you have this oil here, I'll use this one. When you have this oil here, don't know if you can see that very well. The suspension, if you have suspension in there, how are you going to purge that suspension out that's submerged in that thick oil if you're utilizing a stripping agent to strip your medicine from what is left behind in the suspension? So I only came up with the solution of, we must make sure the oil is clean. We must remove all suspensions. And really what that has done was, it's just really created a lower yield in numbers, but a higher yield, or at least an equal yield, in medication amount, because the oil is cleaner and mass. Its mass actually puts more medication into a syringe, because there's the suspension isn't in there, and therefore there's just more medication altogether. More importantly, in my opinion, is if we remove all, and everyone can do this, if we remove the suspensions or the suspended biomass, then we know if we make it correctly and purge it correctly, that we've also removed any potential stripping agent suspensions. And I feel that that's just so important. And again, your oil should always taste the same, look the same, have the same viscosity. And if it does, you know what? You're getting the oil from everyone else. There's another big rumor, if you will, about red oil, clear oil. I have to disagree with everyone, and I apologize to everyone. I really do. Listen, we decarb to a certain degree and a certain degree only. If you decarb, pull all your chlorophylls, you're pulling much of your medication, folks. Much of your medication is gone. The chlorophylls have the same benefit as the green spinach that you buy in the store at Subway and put on your sandwich. It's the same theory. It's the same, they're green from the chlorophylls. However, we have what we've titled and deemed bad chlorophylls, and we deem those to be the chlorophylls that are holding onto the fats and the lipids, and we want to remove those. So we do a very light and long decarb process, sometimes on and off, depending on the amount of mass we're utilizing. So we don't do the toasty, crunchy, turn it brown. It's going in a butter decarb. We do the pull the chlorophylls, pull the lipids. Let's clean it up, and at the same time, let's turn the vacuum fan on, and let's pull any other particulates that might be burning off as well prior to making the solution for the oil. And the most important thing we tell everyone: don't get scared. If you're sick, you're already sick. You have the doctors telling you to take this pill, to take that pill, to take this pill. And I'll guarantee you, if any single one of us, and don't get me wrong, I'm a man of choice, do as you please. But if any single one of us looked at every ingredient in those pills and even tried to pronounce the ingredients alone, it'd probably scare the hell out of us to begin with. So, it's such a, we suggest to everyone, and dare I say this out loud, and dare I say this online, but I'm going to. We've got currently several really great people. They're all great people, so please don't anyone misinterpret that. But we've got several patients that the world once again, like me, gave up on. We got a fellow, I'll use his first name now. His name is Nick. Nick Kalamazoo, this is to you, buddy. He is end stage. He had a death date in June. Hasn't had treatment since. He's reverting. He's going backwards. He's doing 5 and 6 grams a day, combination of both orally and suppositorily. We have the other man that I just told you about. That man I just sat with 2 days ago with tumors that are no longer constricting his airways, and they took the stents out. His other tumor is reducing. We have another lady here. All these are here in Michigan, of course. Patient that the variation of cancers. And she just beyond anything she can believe. She's ecstatic. The doctors are to the point that they went from no treatment will help you to we don't know what happened, but you're at a stage now that where we can apply treatment if you'd like to. So we've got breast cancer over in Harrison. We've got another pancreatic lady in Marion. We've got a wound management person or lady in Reed City, Michigan. And these are all people that have successfully beat the disease or are beating the disease in one fashion or another. There's a Parkinson's disease. Now, lately, we had a real sad story. We had a lady that come home from the hospital. What the family said, she's going to die. She's going to starve to death. There's no more we can do for her. The husband, in a desperation, really wanted to do something. So I give them credit for trying. If it extended her life 3 days and gave her a little comfort, God bless them. That's the one loss that I can personally speak on. In the couple of years since I've personally been feeling better, to the point of assisting as many patients as we possibly can. We're not the type of caregivers. We don't take patients just to grow. You best have a medical problem or you're barking up the wrong tree coming to us. And it's just what we do. It's just what we take serious, and it's just who we are. We know what it did for me. We've seen it work for others. There's no reason. There's a shout out to Doc Tom down in Brown City. He's the man at the beginning that really, really, in fact, he's the man that's brought the price of the oil down for me, Eagle, way at the beginning, and been very, very high quality. We'll say Rick Simpson oil purity, as pure and close as we could get, oil for me, and he become one of my best friends today. I'm sure he's probably watching right now. And he's got patience that, this is why he does it. He's a non-partaker, yet he takes preventative measures daily himself, as does his wife. But I mean, he's got patients that his one lady come home, went to the hospital, got diagnosed with terrible, terrible colon cancer. And instead of going for treatment, she went right to him and said, help me. He got her going on the oils. The cancer went away. I got to the point to where he had to show her how to make the oils, because she still does the treatments today and said, you just don't understand. They told me I had cancer. I'm not going to stop. So, there are cases out there. There are many, many more. I look through the net and I do a lot of reading. Many, many more. There's many benefits beyond cancer. I mean, there's autoimmune, POCS, ladies' disease. Gosh, just so many of them. In all reality, that list can go on and on and on, as you know. I can tell you this much, that, our topical ointment, yes, excuse me just for a minute, our topical ointment, just the other day, I received some photographs. And Eagle, I'll text them over to you. Before and after 3 days of treatment on some terrible, terrible neck tumors. And it's just absolutely amazing that happened topically to me. Now, that was the first report of something like that topically. Now, the man's really ill. And we made him a batch at 6,000 milligrams inside of 4 ounces, and we got it to emulsify and to bind. It's just absolutely amazing what happened. He says what didn't go away. And these are very, very current pictures I'm about to send you. He said what didn't go away, he said, had turned into mush and jelly. And then he was applying some more. So I can tell you, Eagle, that it really does work. I believe the second half of the battle is mentality, but I believe that's also the same in chemotherapy, or anyone else, any other type of treatment. I know that vast patients with cancer that passed, it's not actually the cancer that takes them. It's cachexia, CACEXIA. It's where the cancer starts eating away at your organs. You start losing the mass of your organs, your liver, your lungs, your heart. It's just, your muscle mass, and your body just shuts down. So people like to say, well, they passed away from cancer. Well, yes and no at the same time. They were eaten away to the point that their body just said that's enough. So it really depends on how you look at that. I know I lost an extreme amount of weight when I was sick, about 150 pounds. Went from about 272 pounds down to 120, back to 200 now. I I can't get over 200 no matter how much I eat. I'm told that it's the oil. It's a smart oil. That's my BMI. That's where I'm at. So I'll live with it. I'll take whatever I can get at this point, Eagle. Anything they'll give me.
Yeah. Well, I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to miss the ones in chat too. But I want to hit this one first. America One in chat wants to know your opinion on a preventative certain ailments with a smaller dose. What's your thoughts on like a daily preventative to help prevent?
Well, when it becomes a smaller dose in certain ailments, of course, I'm pro. If it was up to me, .com and I were speaking today. We're both a believer that if the U.S. government wants to stimulate the American people on their 18th birthday, they should start sending them a maintenance dose, a preventative dose of oil monthly. Forget the COVID test strips. Let's send some oil out. So yeah, I do believe that the preventative is there for many things. I mean, it's my belief that, well, it's not just my belief. I mean, we have patients that have cancer in their history of their family. They want a preventative, and you know what? God bless them. For thinking that way. They have children.
So as far as like purity, we talked about that on a phone call one day.
Yeah.
And I asked you, is it good to put in, like a carrot, something to a binder, a coconut oil, or to leave a little bit of the alcohol in there, so you can, for transfer purposes and stuff like that. And you said,
well, the more you put in, the more medicine you're going to take out. If you want a binder, take the binder separately, take it 20 minutes before. If we take a gram of oil and we put in a third of a gram of binder, we still diluted. We didn't make a third and a gram of a gram and a third of medicine. We diluted the gram of oil. Which again is going to affect the milligrams, which is going to affect your dosing. Or increase your dose if you're insistent on doing that. Great, do it as long as you're going to take your medicine. But increase your dose so that your milligrams are at the same level of your medication, which a lot of people don't understand. And that's another reason, I'm glad I touched on that. That's another reason you should always take the same medication, because I don't believe there's any two processors that make it the same. Now, with that being said, I don't believe there's any 2 milligrams that make it the same. What I've noticed is a lot of people like to say, here's a gram, here's 1 milligram, 1 milliliter, 1,000 milligrams. Again, I hate to disagree, and I know people hate me for this, but hogwash, because they're trying to sell you that there's 1,000 milligrams of THC in there. First of all, as a general rule, not all, but most. And that's hogwash. That would be 1,000 milligrams of medication in whole, of the full spectrum, not of THC. Secondly, if it's carrying suspensions, and suspensions are taking up 10% of your space, you just lost 10% of your milligrams. So now you're at 900 milligrams. So again, it's very important that people understand the milligrams and the disease that they're fighting. But to get back to maintenance, absolutely. We believe in maintenance doses. I think the whole world should be on them if you want to know the truth of the matter. I think that we'd all live long and prosper. That's what I believe. We'd all live long and prosper.
Good answer. So I'm curious to know, because it sounds like you just went all in on in your case. So how do you suggest your patients or the people that you deal with that they go at it? Is it still the grain of rice? Work your way up, or are you going punching it right in the face?
Eagle, we grow a little crazy as well. when we grow, we go all in. You know, some people like to work their children into things. We like to throw them into the schoolyard fight, and the ones that are weak, we like to throw out. We do the same thing with patients that come to us in need of help. We've got 105 gram suggestion over a 60-day period. We have ways of getting 4 grams into your system daily without knocking you through the loop or even having any euphoria. So our motto is it's your life, you're fighting for it. Kick, swing, scream. You can get mad, just don't quit. Don't quit.
What a great motto. What a great motto. Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think that at some point, even if it is later in, the disease, like even when you were talking about, closer to the hospice stages, I think this across the board, to be honest with you, rec, medical, cannabis is about the quality of life. You know what I mean? And even if you can get a little bit of quality of life on the way out, isn't it worth it?
Amen. Amen, Eagle. And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. As I said, when I was 20 years old, I didn't realize until I got sick that I was medicating myself in one fashion or another, which led me to my next thoughts. How was I medicating myself? And I was medicating myself so minimally, not understanding that having a joint is great. But the possible medical efficacy uptake is maybe up to 11%, typically lower to 7%, for the medical efficacy, inhaled. And so that's where the journey came along on how to punch the system and get the most into the system as we can get into the system. And, I'm a firm believer in if I can do it, anyone can do it. Lord knows I'm not a rocket scientist and I'm no one special. For years, I went around wondering, why me? And just a year ago, a guy says, you're a dummy. Good friend of mine, you're a dummy. He says, you, because you had a hell of a wife and you had the financial means to do it. He says, why do you think you do what you do, Chuck? And I never even realized until he said that when we do it, we do it for the right reason for the people. It's because we went so broke. It took everything we had. But we did it and we're alive and we're here today to talk about it. So that's all that matters.
I was talking with Uncle Mike today a little bit about the maintenance,
Uncle Mike.
the maintenance dose there. And I told him that I'd been, it's been I think I've been about a month and a half in, to like a maintenance dose or, whatever, a preventive. There you go. Preventative. I would be better said, a little bit better than a grain of rice, maybe 2 a piece size some days. And, he said something because we were talking about you a little bit, about that amazing, it's a jaw dropper to me, the 15 grams. And I'm like, man, he's so sharp, it's so full of life. That's so contradictory for what you would think.
Well, I mean, come on.
And he said, I think at some point when you do more than, expected, your body goes the other way with it. It kind of turns everything on and forces everything, out, so I can see it. And I'm like, if that's the case, man, he's on full blast all the time.
Well, let me tell you, I'll tell you what I think. I can tell you when I do a 16th or 17th gram, I sleep well. Probably too well. I think that because of the amount, listen, I've spoken to oncologists and pharmacists in regards to my treatment. And that's where the entire mustard gas review and reading came from, was from things that they told me about mustard gas. We never set out to develop chemotherapy. That was found an accident. First a doctor in England and then the doctor in Yale. And it was just found on autopsies from soldiers that were in World War I and, died from mustard gas. And that's when they said, you doing the same thing, you're just doing it all naturally without the deadly side effects. They said anything we put into our body is chemical therapy, all the way down from, I'm sorry, everyone, I love it too, a sip of coffee, chemicals in it, to an aspirin or to a vitamin. It's chemical therapy. So the difference, as they explained to me, was what's the difference with the flooding? You're flooding your system so hard that you're not giving anything bad a chance to live. I mean, the number one question I have for everyone always, and I think I mentioned this to you already, is we have all of the endocannabinoid receptors in our human body. They have the ability to be synthetically fed, synthetically being the key word, through our natural process. However, there's only one plant in the world that can naturally, very careful word to me is naturally, that can naturally feed them. Just one. And that one plant happens to be so terrible, so against the law, yet when you go to a smokel social club, you don't see a bunch of high-ons getting into a fist fight and busting their bongs over each other's head like you do at the bars with the whiskey and the beer. It's just like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing it? And I think it always comes down to the money. So I want to go back to that maintenance dose just for a minute. I want everybody in the world to take a maintenance dose. If you're able, take a maintenance dose. It don't matter. And I'm not bashful. Around here, they call them poopsicles, fudgicles, suppositories and sticks. I don't care how you take your dose, orally, suppositorily. It just don't matter. Just take your dose.
So, and I've wondered about this myself. I've seen over the years people making oil out of different parts of the plant.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Out of shake. I've seen people online, if that's your medicine, actually purchasing flour, from the dispos and breaking it down into the oil themselves. But what is your opinion on the best way to produce oil? Is it whole plant, or is it, whatever you can get to,
Well, look, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic for a minute. Some people can grow a plant or two, not because that's what they can grow. That's because that's what they have the ability to grow for whatever reason. Some people can't grow a plant for whatever reason. Some people can grow a bunch of plants. Realistically, use what you can. Use what you can. Try to stay tight to the sugar if you're going to use trim. I would suggest just tight trim. Personally, we are a flour believer, using just flour. That's what works for me. And again, I just can't fathom a reason in mind to change it. We believe in just whole flour and just doing it to it. And typically you'll hear everybody say, oh, you'll hear some people talk about they got 200 grams, on a pound of flour, 180 grams or 170 grams. We found about 44 grams is our average return on 1 pound of flour. However, that's a clean 44 grams. We know we throw it away because we burn it up, and we watch it. So we know we get rid of it. But again, we got more medicine in the tube, so we're getting more therapeutic effect. End story.
I wondered myself, because I had made it in different methods myself, and then I kind of thought about the whole chlorophyll thing, and then I thought about watching the Mr. Simpson videos as many times I had, and he had suggested the whole plant. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we use the whole plant here. I mean, use what they can, but we use the whole plant, top to the bottom.
And I thought to myself, well, if he's suggesting I throw in the leaves, and the leaves ain't got, a bunch of chlorophyll in it, maybe there's other things that we're missing, in different parts of the plant. So that made me kind of rethink the chlorophyll thing. And yeah, I thought, it was good.
Well,
It was nice to hear somebody like yourself kind of vindicate what I was thinking about the chlorophyll.
Well, I mean, it's just so good for us that people don't realize why the doctors want you to eat your greens. They want you to eat your greens for the exact same reason they don't want you to take your other greens, because they're both good for you.
So I know I may get you a little bit riled up on this one, but it's a valid question, I guess. I know you're an organic grower, but do you think there's a difference in the oils, or the amount of oil, or the quality of oil from, a patient that has to or does grow their stuff in cocoa versus, the medicine that's grown in soil? Is that in your case, do you find a better oil in the organics? Is that,
I
part of
find
the reason?
I find a better product, all in all, number one. Number two, the reason that my crew, and again, hats off to the crew. I've got a wonderful small caregiving crew that they work 7 days from sun up to sundown, and sometimes till midnight or 3 a.m. Then they'll be back at it at 5 a.m. Wonderful, wonderful crew. We found that by going live and making our own, first of all, we have the ability to make our own where we reside. We have the acreage, we have a backhoe here, we have the ability to go out and get whatever we need out of the forest. We've even been able to eliminate perlite from our mix. The important thing, in my opinion, is no matter what you're growing in, whether you're growing in a flood and drain, whether you're growing in just straight cocoa pots, clean it, flush it, get the salts out, get the chemicals out, get the metals out. That's one of the reasons we went to organic was, to be honest with you, my wife pushed it first. Tracy pushed it. She said, why do we want to grow something with metals and all these bad things in it that are known to cause cancer? And it hit me right in the head. So there we go. We started our own live soil, and we grow live. We even taken up a bunny colony, so that we can use our own bunny droppings, and mix them in throughout the year and just keep everything happy. We add somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 100,000 red wigglers yearly, just to keep everything once again very happy. And we just use our own, and we were able to get rid of the perlite by taking red pine needles. My guys will collect red pine needles. We have plenty of red pine needles around here, and they will rot them. They will not rot them, they will soften them. Probably a wrong word. I'm going to step away just for a second. You'll have to forgive me just for 1 second. Just got to go right here. They will rot them. They will soften them. No different than a compost pile. And then we'll use the red. We'll use the red pine needles for the perlite, for the exchange on the perlite, to allow the passage of the aeration, to allow the passage of the water. And by softening them up, they're taking care of all the points and the tips. We're getting rid of the acidity. by softening up and letting them sit for the 9 months to a year. So then we were able to get rid of the perlite. We were able to provide probably 80% of our nitrogens through our natural worm castings, because other than working it through the soil compost pile, also add somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 80 worms per hole per year directly, again, for the aeration and for the natural casting. And those natural castings are great insect repellents. They won't stop the insects, but the insects hate the smell of natural castings. So it's a win-win for us. And I found that, again, we got 3 or 4 caregivers here. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4 caregivers here, 5. And the expense of buying the cocoa was in 5 digits annually. And it just made no sense any longer when we looked around and thought, what are we doing? And why do we want to chemicals like Tracy suggested? We can do this all on our own. And we were able, guys, I got to tell you, if you have the ability, making your own compost is not that difficult. It doesn't take long. You can put your home scraps in there, your eggshells, great calcium. You can put seaweed in there out of your local lake and pond if you want. There's just so many different benefits that you can do to it. We like to use a little bit of fertilizer builder and a little bit of natural lime soil that we like to mix in the fall and let it rot and cook throughout the winter. It's just not that hard to do some natural worm castings. If you need to use a perlite, use a perlite. Otherwise, you can make something in a substitute. And it's just really not that hard to do. And then you can break down and you can keep it live. Now, we do use an amendment that we'll use both in the compost pile and throughout the season called Recharge from Real Growers out in Colorado. It is organic certified. It's just over 10,000 microbes, for your soil, for your amendment. I suggest that to anyone. I don't even care if you're growing cocoa. I suggest that to anyone. It just helps with the nutrient uptake, on your babies. And I do suggest that you do that. And then we make our own teas throughout the years, our own worm casting teas, and we'll use our seabird guano during flower season, and we'll make teas for seabird or for a flower season out of seabird guano. They make both a great direct feed as well as a great foiler spray. A little more work for the foiler spray. The guys run it through filtration so that it's kind of clean. We're not putting seashells on everything. And it's just not that difficult to go organic. I mean, it takes really from the end of one season to the start of the next season. If you're an outdoor grower or hoop house grower, you can have your pile built and ready to go next year and no problem at all, because even over the winter months, if you keep it covered, it's still going to cook and do its thing.
Yeah, for me, I started to dip down that road myself, but this is one of the things that scared me about organics. I know once I opened that door that everybody in my household would be all upset with me, because then there would be a bend for everything between the earthworms and the bokashi and everything else. They'd be like, yeah, I'm tired of this.
Yeah, we make our own potash and everything. So I hear you. We're piled up, bend up, covered up. But we're out in a rural setting, and thank the Lord, no neighbors. It's you hit it on the head there. I mean, this is there and that's over there, and go get the potash from there, and it's all there. So you're absolutely right.
So can you suggest some of those really good indica strains for some people that are, interested in making some oil for themselves?
I'll tell you, if you're doing it for a medical purpose and and I'm gonna tell you something, blow your way on this as well. I'm gonna go off indica as well for a minute. If you're doing it for a cancer purpose, um, um, there's a strain, blueberry OG. So it's old, it's from the 90s. But it's 100% indica. It's a wonderful strain. Does an amazing job on the full spectrum as well. A second strain that's going to sound really crazy. However, there are only two growers of it, and one of them's Doc Tom, the guy that helped me, and myself now. He alters a white widow into and it's a seed alterations, into a white widow Sims. Kind of like the California wild Sims that you read about. And 60% of those large gram amounts of oil that I told you that I took were white widow Sims. So he grows it and he allows me to grow it as well. He's a nice guy. And those are the two. I mean, white widow is a sativa leading hybrid. However, when you add the Sims to it, it's an indica leaning hybrid. You know, so those are the two main ones. However, almost any indica, I'll tell you, a plant that I really enjoy making oil with, and we use it for autoimmune. We like it in the ointments due to its anti-inflammatory properties, is purple punch. Purple punch seems to make a great oil with many benefits. So I really enjoy that one as well. But I really have to go back to the blueberry for oil making. I mean, I'm gonna make oil, let's make real 100% indica, and that happens to be a strain I've been able to hold on to. And it's just an old 90s 100% indica strain.
You know, I've talked to people like Breeder Steve about, you know, using autos and stuff like that for like oil purposes. But is that even feasible? I mean, is it better to run from clones in a, you know, a medical setting like this, to where, you know, you can, something you could do yourself, and with, you know what I mean, versus paying per plant per seed for the quickness of it all and the just chop and grind, I guess.
Well, as you know, I'm in this for the medical factor. So I don't want the folks out there to take this wrong. I grow big babies. I don't grow little babies. My guys have to get the scaffolds out. I can send you pictures of people standing on 6 and 8 foot fences with scaffolding wired up, reaching over trimming colas. And they're 6.5 foot tall. And so I figured that with it being medicinal, what we need is good quality medication. And when it comes to autos, I've been around many autos. I don't think the volume is there. I think that you're going to drive yourself crazy on rotation, on more than perpetual. We're all perpetual. So many people don't realize that. So many people think that they're indoor and they're on a cycle of 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 weeks. So they're perpetual. Well, even the outdoor, the hoop house growers are perpetual, because in all reality, we're still in trim prison over here. And we'll be in trim prison probably until end of January. It won't be burped until March. And it's go time again. I mean, while we're burping, we're making babies. So everyone's perpetual. They just don't think that through, that, as they're going in between cycles and cleaning their equipment and sanitizing their tents, we're making babies and burping at the same time. So it's just perpetual all the way around. But I think that the yield, is you have to take that into consideration when you're making it for oil, because your yield on your oil is going to be not what a lot of people think. I remember the first time I made oil, the very first time. I'll never forget it. I remember looking at the bottom of that pot and thinking, that's all I get. And I think, man, that was a lot of pot. But you know what? It was everything that was on the inside of that pot, man. We stripped it, we took it. Close enough to everything, anyways. So it's not that's all I get. It's amazing how much extra when we do smoke that we are taking. But again, there's other benefits here. Versus when we strip it, because when we strip it, we're also losing other benefits. It's affecting our CBNs, it's affecting our CBGs. It's affecting everything. I'm really interested right now in THCV. And I'm told that there's some, and I haven't found them yet, but I will, that there are some very specific strains that put out high amounts of THCV. There are some studies about THCV and its very, very rapid ability to kill cancer cells, to cause self-destruction.
So that lies a toughie there. So would the quickness be a benefit? Because isn't, one of the benefits for people that are sick like that, as you kind of pointed out, you lose a lot of mass.
Yes.
And you're wanting to, count on it for appetite purposes. So would the THCV counter, because that's a suppressant to the body naturally.
Yes.
So would it, you know what I mean? Is it be better to, have it to try to kill quicker? But how would you? It seems like you'd have to counterbalance.
You'd have to balance it. You'd have to, again, I think it's about the psychological effect of the person. I think that the person has to be willing. You have to understand, when you have cancer, you're never the same. And that's number one that they need to accept. Their body's going to make adjustments and changes in other ways that had nothing to do with the cancer, but adjusted because of the cancer. And it never really comes back to where it was or how it was. And so if you have a late stage cancer and we can prove THCV to kill quicker, to kill faster, then let's kill it. And then let's just get you on some straight up THC refrigerator oil. And then we'll send you to the kitchen. It's just, you have to have that psychological mindset. I'll tell you, people say, well, what's it take to make a dose, to make a treatment course? How much does it cost to make a treatment course? And they look at it, and at first they think that's really kind of expensive, and they think I'm crazy. You're telling me for about $1,700, I can buy everything I need to make me a full cancer treatment course. To know, A, did I kill it? B, am I killing it? C, am I living a better quality of life? That's cheap. That's how they look at it. Yeah, for about $1,700, you buy everything you need. For the next 60 days, you take it. You're gonna know. You're gonna know in 60 days. Now there's a benefit to knowing as well. What if it don't work? Well, chemo may not work either. Well, but if it don't work, you know how you're going to live your life out. You know what you want to do and how you're going to do it. Like I said, we've not really run across that yet. We've had that one lady that, was very, very 2 days life expectancy. That hasn't really tried. But what if it don't? But no, I believe that THCV needs to be further looked into. I think that there are some end stage people that if it acts as quickly as they're reporting that it acts on their cancer cells, that is absolutely something to look into. There's a lot of talk out there about THC may kill cancer cells, but as example, may slow your digestive tract down. slap me and call me stupid. Let's kill the cells. Okay, let's kill the cancer cells. Okay, give me something to speed the digestive tract up, or I'll change my diet. Either way, we're gonna fix it. I mean, I'm not being ignorant here, and I don't want to sound like I'm being a simpleton, but let's focus on the fight. There's Parkinson's. There's so many, from Lou Gehrig's on down, there's so many different autoimmune disorders that there's billions and trillions of dollars around the globe being spent on them. And yet we're still arguing about the benefits of marijuana. There's just something wrong here. And you know what it comes down to, and I know it, you know it, it's money. It's absolute money capitalism, that's in the way. But on the same token, we can't damn capitalism. We wouldn't live in the world we live in today if we damned capitalism. So it's got to come down to control or freedom of option. The right to self-perseverance. People have to realize, if we were attacked today in a war, you and I could take up arms against the bad guys to save our life. It's allowed. I mean, it's absolutely allowed. So let's save our lives. That's where I'm at, and I'm willing to go all the way with this. Currently, we are working with a producer and a media company, and kind of a big deal. And we're working on a documentary about my story and the story of some of these other patients. And we're looking at the views of different people. We're looking at police officers' views. We're looking at doctor views. We're looking at the devil's lettuce generational views. We're looking at the naysayers. We're looking at the pros, the cons. All of it is the entire idea. And tentatively, at this point, it's called Planting the Seed. And we'll know more about it. It's a Hollywood thing. They take time. But we'll know more about it soon. And it's going to be a big thing. And I've decided that it's time for people to know. And that's why I've decided to do this. And, they're talking that we make it work. It's going to be a global release. So let's pass the word.
I hope it comes out sooner than later, because that word needs to be passed. That's one of the we're constantly learning, and man, I've seen it a lot lately. The whole medical message, you know what I mean? The power of the plant being lost to this party recreation push.
That's exactly it. I mean, that's exactly it. That's what's happened to our events. It's what's happened to everything. I mean, it's just lost. And because it got lost, we got to say in here, seed before greed. And unfortunately, I think it got flipped. I think this turned into a corporate nightmare.
I think it's, and I love your thoughts on this. And some people say my outlook on this is fucking, excuse my language, gloom and doom. But I really believe this is the way corporations, this is the way lobbyists work. And I believe this huge push we see for recreational cannabis versus medical. I mean, we see the power of the plant. Why didn't it push from coast to coast before the Yay Let's Party did? And I think that is because of the pharmaceutical companies. For one, all the three sins basically are losing money here. The pharmaceuticals, the alcohol, the tobacco are all teaming up to, save themselves right now. But I think it's the pharmaceutical companies that are the biggestly and most afraid of, because like we've talked about, they're the ones really kicking people when they're down. Some of these medications, like you said, okay, you said $1,700 for a kit that would probably most likely could, for not getting shut down purposes, we can't, you know what I mean? We can't.
Right. Now, it's going to cost someone to obtain the product.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, that's not even like one treatment of a medical system, right?
You're God, that's getting past the waiting room. I mean, that's getting a scan, maybe.
So they have a lot to lose. They have a lot to lose from the cannabis
Well,
plant.
they have a lot to win. You have to remember. You have to remember that at the end of the day, I mean, this was just open up to research and development for medical purposes. Now, when they opened it to research and development the other day, they didn't drop it to Schedule 2. Now, that wasn't done, from my understanding, by lobbying from the pharmaceutical companies, because the minute they dropped it to Schedule 2, it allowed it to be legally mailed across state lines for research and development. And the minute that happens comes the value added federal tax across the board, every dispo across the country now. Now, if they were to do that, it wasn't just for research and development for the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, now they're talking about these private licenses that they're giving out for this research and development. And I beg anyone, please show me the private license that doesn't tie back to the pharmaceutical company. They all tie back to the pharmaceutical company, whether it's through the Bahamas, the Cayman Islands, etc. It's just insanity what's going on. And I gotta tell you, and I'm not suggesting we do this, but I know we threw a bunch of tea in the harbor at one time over some very, very terrible tyranny that was going down. And I think that we are in the middle of a medical tyrannical war. Not just in cannabis, but natural relief and natural health, period. Because again, no one can legally own the patent to the cannabis plant. We can't own, the patent to the oak tree in your backyard. Now, if you genetically alter it and make it a half oak, half maple, yeah, they'll give you a shot at one. But I mean, it's just not going to happen, and it's federally illegal, so you're not going to get a patent anyways. I love these people that tell me they got a patent on their product. Yeah, you don't. Feds aren't going to give you a patent on your product. But long of it short, I think that we are up against a war. I think that the money is so excessive, and it runs in a circle. See, so many people think that your insurance company is paying the hospital X amount of dollars. Now, what they're not thinking is, what's the hospital doing with all that money? Well, the insurance company's got representatives and everything that need vacations and things of that sort. And that money's got to come from somewhere too. So they call that, a little bit of a rebate. They give a rebate back to the insurance company that takes that rebate and uses it for 100% tax write-off to send their executives over to Hawaii. It's really a nice little scheme they got going on, but it's time enough for everyone to open their eyes and realize. And I like to say that, open your eyes and realize. But it is time for everyone to open their eyes and realize what is really going on out there. I mean, how come we have to go to the doctor? And here's a great question. How come we have to go to the doctor and we need chemotherapy? So, okay, here's your chemotherapy. You know what? Let me give you a prescription of Marinol to help you with the nausea. Why don't you just write me an card and I'll go down and get me a bag and I'll help myself with the nausea? Why do I got to go through that pharmaceutical company for that fake marijuana? I think that should open everyone's eyes in itself. Why does your doctor want you to go get Marinol for the nausea and not go get the real deal?
That's why we have such a war here. To be honest with you, the pharmaceutical companies are the money, trying to research this, but there's so many aspects. The genie's too fucking big. Genie's too big.
Hell with that.
You know what I mean? They can't.
We're gonna put it back in.
Oh no, they can't put it back in, but they can't contain it either as far as a medicine. So they're trying everything they can to save their ass because they can't. The best they can do so far is Marinol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they haven't figured out a way they can 100% make money off it as a medicine because A, they can't figure the shit out. B, we can produce it ourselves, and neither one of those they can't really make money on. So they need to save their ass and keep making the giving us the poisons. So they're lobbying to get that recreation. It's a bait and switch. Look over here. Look over here. You don't need that medicine. And as the message gets lost, they can keep giving that poison until they can
Absolutely.
figure out the puzzle.
And the message is getting lost on that. If you've noticed across the state, the number of medical dispensaries is just so far lower. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the reason being is it's so less expensive not to have a medical there, to give the state higher taxes. And listen, it's all about the money. I don't care. Listen, look, I told you before when we met, I'm willing to put the bulls on my back and I'll call them all out. I don't care if it's the state. I don't care if it's the CRA. I don't care if it's the LARA. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the corporation that owns the dispensaries all across our state that's residing out of Amsterdam. The fact is it all comes down to investor relations and dollars and cents. Period. End of the story. End of the story. It doesn't come down to good quality medication. I'm not going to use names here. I can't do that. I know better. But I have a very, very dear associate partner friend that just assisted on a very large commercial grow. Do you know when them plants were chopped, they were immediately put into a household cleaning solution and peroxide mixture as limbs? They were then drug inside by tractor to put into a microwave to finish their remediation before they searched for mold and rot. He said it was the most disgusting thing he ever seen in his life, but he needed the money. He needed the money, and he was there. And you go to dispensaries nowadays, and I don't care what they say. Like I said, I'll call them all out. Prove me wrong. These are my personal opinions. So prove me wrong if you want to. Another friend of mine just the other day went to a dispensary and they bought their lowest price eighth and their most expensive priced eighth. And there was a big difference of odor. And the odor was simple. You could tell that it was remediated or moldy or old, etc. on the lowest priced eighth. And there was a big difference. There was a $43 price tag difference between the two eighths. One was $7, one was $50 at the same store. And that, Eagle, is just, again, goes to show you the greed, because you and I both know, and I hope you take my side on that. I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth here. We both know to grow that $7 an eighth weed and to grow that $50 an eighth weed, the grower typically doesn't pay any more money unless it's on genetics and he does a 10,000 K cut and is a dumbass and doesn't mother it. It doesn't take us any more money to grow that $50 an eighth cut than it does to take us to grow that $7 an eighth cut. It makes no sense to me. Maybe I'm too damn old. That may have something to do with it, because I am used to ice cream being a quarter. And a gallon of gas being 49 cents, 59 cents. So I could be too old for this world altogether.
If you think about it, it's really ass backwards.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I guarantee the cat that's producing the $7 a gram is probably beating his head. He's throwing everything at it. He's like, fucking, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the guy that's getting that $50 an eighth's probably got fucking a system. He's probably organic. You know what I mean? He's putting nil into it and getting the biggest bang.
And getting a big bang. And that's just terrible. But it just goes again about that greed. It doesn't need to be. Everyone needs to pay their light bill. Listen, them dispensaries are here to stay. We're not going to stop them. We can try to control them, make a little room, don't push back so hard, etc. I'll lead the charge, guys. Hire me. But we're not going to stop them. I mean, there's just too much money. It's too deep in, and that's all there is to it. But I will say, that we can control in a little bit. I want to turn the people of Michigan onto something else when they think they're getting that really good California weed. Go to Amazon.com and buy yourself a bunch of bags that says made in California and have them shipped to Michigan and put your product in it. I'm sorry, guys, but it's done every day. Know your caregiver. Know your caregiver. That's all I can preach is know your caregiver. You can go and buy them right on Amazon, ship them right to Ohio if you want. It don't matter what state you live in. But it'll say CA with a little triangle down at the bottom, like it came hot out of California. It's a greedy, greedy world.
It most certainly is. So do you think that at some point, because of the large scale trying to drive us out, that we'll have an opportunity to come back for, this is a good cue for the name on that shirt, because they'll get tired of it and they'll want a craft cannabis. And I guess, what in your opinion makes craft? This is a good question for a guy that puts it's in his company name. What makes craft cannabis?
What makes it are two very important factors. It's funny you mentioned that because we talk about this. The first factor is blood, sweat, and tears. And I don't mean this funny, but when I see my guys in the field, I better see assholes and elbows. And they better be hurting and they better be loving on that baby. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care. It don't matter. That's number one to craft is proper caretaking. Now, we can call it cultivation if we want. But at that point, I would like to call it caretaking. Because that baby has a lifespan. So it needs to be cared after for a while before we can put it off into its adolescence to take care of itself for a minute, or for the most part. So that's number one. Number two, in my opinion, craft, what I like to do as craft is I like to be retro. I like Pineapple Express, Blueberry OG. If we're gonna do a sativa, I like to craft grow myself SLH and a green crack, all the 90s strains, all the strains that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, one of my great friends, Michael Fang, very high genetics. I've got some great high genetics myself. But if I was to pick a strain, if I was allowed to grow one strain and one strain only, one strain of sativa and one strain of indica, there's no doubt what they would be. It'd be blueberry and green crack. And the reason being is they're both retro. We can do so much to them, so much to them. It's just absolutely amazing. Now, here's what else, in my opinion, makes craft is when we use somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 miles a net of trellis in our gardens. And we trellis at 3 foot, 6 foot, sometimes 2, 4, and 6. And the difference is, and I know a lot of people, and I'll put my, and I know everybody says this, but, a lot of people say, oh, hoop house, outdoor, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we're focused on medical, but at the same time, most people confuse ours for indoor. I mean, it's just super tight, super clean. But when it comes to craft, I'm also going to say the most important thing is we can take it and we can manipulate it in such a fashion that we can bring more out. We can bring the plant to its fullest potential and its fullest release, providing we don't take the plant beyond its capabilities. Because at that point, as you know, we screwed it up and sent it to birth. Oh, there he comes.
Sorry about that. My internet's been crap lately.
You know what's great about that? I'm working on a darn hotspot. And it stayed on. But anyways, no, craft is also just working it right throughout the year. Listen, you can turn any plant into craft. I don't care what you want to do. You can bonsai a tree. You can have fun with trees. Turn them into bonsai plants. Do what you want to do. I mean, they're tough little noxious weeds, for Lord's sakes. They'll do a lot for you. But you can almost craft any tree. It depends on what you want to call craft. I mean, in my opinion, craft is this. Fully vibrant. Okay, when I say fully, I mean fully. I mean, I don't want to see anything non-vibrant on that tree come the 5th week of life. So it needs to be fully vibrant. I also mean well manicured, well maintained, well fed. I think personally, again, I'm probably have a little bit of probably lean a little bit this way, but I think anyone that grows 100% organic is craft growing. I think that they're tending to each baby as its needs, because something that a lot of people don't realize when you're organic growing, you may get that sick one or this sick one. And that takes a lot of work when you want to correct them organically, because they may have 2 different problems on opposite ends of your field. So now you gotta put that work together. And to me, that's all craft. That's no different than craft brewing. To me, I mean, how you feed them is craft. Their uptake is craft. There's just so much that you can do to craft, or you can take craft right to high genetics. Whatever you want to do. But what is high genetics? I mean, I'm stuck on the 90s because it's of my opinion that that's when genetics got to probably the greatest state that they could possibly get without taking the manipulation to something possibly too far. Now, I'm not a genetics man, but that's my belief, my opinion. And that's why I'm stuck on the 90 strain. So being stuck on the 90 strain, we have to grow them in such a fashion that we can get to yield, we can get to growth way, which is very important to us. And we're very, very particular in flower spots on our babies. I think that craft just goes everywhere. I mean, I think it comes from the heart. I think it comes from how you care for your baby. I think that someone can take Panama Red and craft grow it if they wanted to. I think that they could just sweeten it up. They could make it grow in different forms and fashions. And that would be craft, in my opinion. I mean, it's no different than a craft beer. I mean, it's just a little bit different, made a little different.
Yeah, 100%. I think when we far as the medicine goes, I think things are being bred, or the surge towards the high THC is taking more and more medical from the flower. So some of them 90 strains may have a little bit more medical value to them. I think more despite the THC, I think that's more and more, we're talking more and more closer to recreational cannabis. I'm not sure if it's, we're taking it closer to the medicine side of things by a flower that has a higher THC content.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We've got Doc Tom's been able to put out untested product. Some good old 90 strains right up hovering the 30% mark still. So again, I think you do that by the method and your methodology of your grow and how you treat your baby versus anything different. I think that it's just a matter of caring, knowing, and if you don't know, I try to wake up. I've got a saying around here: wake up dumb enough every day to learn something new. And when I don't know, I got no problem calling anyone. I don't care what it is, I don't know. There's times I've misidentified a nitrogen deficiency. Other times I mis-ID'd it. I mean, it just happens, guys. Don't kick yourself in the butt. Ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. Let's just learn from it. And I think that's craft growing. I think the ability to move forward with your grow and to do better next time than you are this time definitely makes you a craft grower. If you want to improve yourself, grow after grow after grow, I think you're a craft grower. Right now, my team's working on how can they make the season better next year than they did this year. To be honest with you, there ain't one of them here. I'm here all alone. I think they're fools. I don't think they can. They did a wonderful job this year. I don't think they can make it a better year, but we'll find out. I mean, they're making it a challenge, and you know what? That makes them craft growers. They're trying to exceed their boundaries and their limits. So I think that it comes in a variation of ways, Eagle, when it comes right down to it.
I think we'll have like just in the same. He brought up like a craft beer. The way the craft beer market was snuffed out for so long, that's what's going to happen to cannabis. The big few are going to come in and they're going to steamroll shit for a while, and people are just going to be like, okay, we're tired of the big three beers. You know what I mean? We know it's better than this. We know it's better than this. And then I think that's the surge for the craft grow will come back. And I think everything you said on point. You know, I think craft is blood, sweat, and tears, to be honest with you. It's spending the time, it's being in the right place. You know, I was pointing out the other day that you know, you can go through the motions and produce a pretty flower, something that looks good, and it just, there's something missing there. And that key being you weren't in the right place when you were there. You know what I mean?
Right. I hear you. Amen. I can hear that.
And I think that's the craft right there. I think, you know, even in the larger scales, I've seen across, anymore. I'm really starting to wonder on this, but I really see it from not myself and the people, the masses that I talk to. You know, they do unfortunately go to the dispos, and I see what they're smoking, and it looks decent and it smells decent, but man, I'll smoke your sack in a day easy trying to get high off it. You know what I mean?
And again, it's gone to bulk grow. It's gone to bulk grow. And that's all there is to it. You know, the greatest trick in the world is always convincing the rest of the world you don't exist. I want you to think about something for a minute, and I'm far from a conspiracy theorist. We were talking about going to Amazon and ordering bags. If you had 5,000 pounds of overages, how would you get rid of them? Just leave it at that. So is the real problem where the problem's being painted, or has the problem been painted to point the finger where the finger needs to be? Because right now, as my understanding, they're claiming that the real problem is there's too much California marijuana coming into the state.
Is that the current
That's the current blame. That they shut the mailing down, and to keep it out of the mail, blah, 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 blah. Well, again, come on, guys, wise up. And I'm not insulting anyone, but if I can order California bags, and I've never have as a disclaimer, if I can order the California bags online, who else can? And you can get them to fit any size you want. And they look hot. They look like they came from California. And that's that.
Yeah, you know, that's a touchy subject with me right there.
No, you're a caregiver, I think it goes back to. I think 100% Eagle is.
We constantly get the blame for all those overages, you know, and especially as of late, because of all the other things I've seen going on. recreational. Here we go again. Recreational comes aboard. What happened in Michigan? Caregivers got thrown to the side. The
By the
medical,
very legislators that created the law for the caregivers to build the industry.
the people that were licensed to grow were thrown so many loops to jump through that they were like, all right, yeah, we're just going to do rec, forget the medical side of things.
Yeah.
And then they turned their back on us. And then they start pointing the finger at the caregivers. Oh yeah, there's all the overage, all this extra cannabis in the market wasn't nothing to do with them. It was the caregiver. And then things went wreck. And then they gave every house the right to grow 12 plants. And everybody and their brother grew 12 plants. And even like aunts, uncles, grandma, can I put 12 plants at your house? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not the problem. It's the caregiver trying to, provide
Right. And not
medicine.
do a direct call, how they did it. Yeah, I got you. And I agree 110%. I think that we have a solution to the answer. I don't know if we'll ever achieve it. I'd like to achieve it. And I think, as much as you read this, as cliche as it may sound, support your caregivers, guys. Support your caregivers. If you don't have one and you're going to the dispo, go get one. Chances are you're going to get a better product. Donations are low, help cover the cost, support the caregivers.
I agree. Is that a double-edged sword right there? The problem and the answer that we've talked about. We talked about these events becoming more recreational, but right now that's about the only thing keeping a lot of these caregivers afloat are some of these events. But then again, the people that hold the events are like smacking them so hard. I knew that from back when I sold seeds. It was so hard to go to an event and recoup that booth cost and travel.
Sure. Lodging.
It was all publicity at some point, and
Yeah, you're writing it off as advertising costs.
Yeah. So
listen, we're in the initial stages of planning a 420 event. CRA though. It'll be CRA registered. My associate is a CRA licensed company for event organizer. He had one last year down at the Hart Racetrack. Just to learn was the entire reason for the event. And now we're trying to put a really good team together to have a 420 event. 100% CRA regulated. It's a little bit different. At CRA regulations, it's more of what we just spoke about. It's more of advertising dollars for the dispos that are there because they're going to sell to the state's legal limits. And not a gram more. The caregivers are going to be able to smoke and share. And interview patients, and patients can interview them. And they can make a decision upon the interviews what to do later. It seems pretty reasonable. We're hoping to have a great music lineup, as was last year at the racetrack. A great music lineup. And we'll see if we can pull it together. We've got some great people, and it's all about the caregivers to us. And we just want the caregivers to come together. There's enough of us caregivers that if they really stood together, instead of wanting to do better than the next guy, this is, again, my personal opinion and thought. There's enough caregivers to make an impact. Because other than caregivers, just as you were talking about on the rec, going to grandmas and putting in 12 and going to aunts and putting in 12. Well, every one of us caregivers know a handful of voters, every single one of us. So at the end of the day, we do have power by numbers if we were to create a coalition and become a coalition versus a cutthroat industry. But I think that the corporate portion of the industry has become so cutthroat, it's been a trickle down effect And I think it just all needs to stop. I think everything needs to stop. I think that when a caregiver is accepting donations less than cost, I think that we're going to lose more and more caregivers because there's only so long a caregiver can afford to do that. It's a patient's job to help cover the cost and to learn how to grow. That's something else we're big on. We want to teach our patients how to grow and pick up new patients as on fast of a rotation as we can possibly pick up. We don't want to keep going to the same people all the time. Once we got them healthy and moving, we want to teach them how to grow, and we want them to make their own darn medicine, and we'll go help someone else. And I think that with a proper coalition, we can get that message across. But I don't think that the coalition is there. I think that we've had a trickle down effect of economics. I think that everybody's worried about the market, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, the market's crap, no doubt. People would rather go and spend $7 on that eighth or $12 on that eighth than give their caregiver cost for the same amount. Because it comes in a fancy package or it's got a fancy label. I think that until caregivers have had enough, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that that day will come. I think that we're in for an uphill climb, to tell you the truth of the matter. I don't think we need to be. And that's why I think that a guy like myself, with everything I've been through, my family's been through, I think that I'm just going to stick to the severe medicinal side of attempting to help people, because I know that'll keep me busy. There's enough folk out there that need help. But caregiving comes in so many fashions, like you said. No matter how you're consuming the plant, you're definitely assisting yourself. Whether you're elevating yourself, you're elevating your spirit, you're making yourself feel better, you're getting through the day in a more positive manner, in a more positive energy. It really doesn't matter how you're assisting yourself, as long as you're assisting yourself. And that's one thing that's been consistent upon THC, are benefits are pros over cons. 25 to 1, 28 to 1, whatever it is. Pros over cons. And the cons are so minimal. I mean, there's so minimal cons, Eagle, that you may as well just go with it, guys. I mean, it really amazes me right now is the number of closet smokers, closet users, that before it went recreational, you would have never guessed that 68-year-old lady smoked a bag a week that lived down the road from you. So, the support's there, guys. We just need to find a way to wrap ourselves around the message as caregivers. And call me the eternal optimist if you want. But I believe we can do it. I believe it can be done. I believe it's a fight, and I believe some of us are going to be willing to have that fight, and some of us can't have it or won't have it, whatever the case may be. Choose not to, be a better word than won't. But I'm willing to have it with anyone that wants to stand up and create a great caregiver coalition.
I dig it. I've been kind of and I haven't been thinking about it on that aspect. I've been calling it more of a Cana Rotary Club.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
Right on.
And yeah, I think that could work just as well. We've kind of thought about it too, as like, if you called it a private club, a Rotary club like that too, you could have like a local establishment where you could come network and smoke.
Yeah, sure. Bring it right into a social club.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that that's where we got off of track again. You hit on something that really, really hit home with me. You said that so many of these vendors are reliant, upon these events that are having all this trouble and have gone so commercial. Prior to recreational, that wasn't the case. it wasn't the case. So again, it goes back to, what are we going to do as caregivers? Are we going to lay down, or are we going to do something about it? Are we going to band together? Are we going to become each other's friends and associates and colleagues, and work together and work to assist each other in Lansing and across the board, because the power of the medicine and the correction of the diseases that are in it. I'll tell you this, we can go to the dispo right now. And there's a few open yet down in Kalamazoo, I believe. They got 24 hours. We can go to dispo right now, and we can make a recommendation for a medication to assist us with our IBS. And that bud tender, chances are going to look at us with crossed eyes, don't even know what IBS is, but gonna make a recommendation based on a sale and a tip. So again, we need to go back to caregivers who actually put in the time, do the research, know the strain. One of my friends actually grows per patient, per strain. So they don't just grow and suggest this, that, or the other thing. They will interview with the patients. They will see what the exact issue is, and then they will do the research on what is going to benefit that patient the best. And when they do that, then they go to the patient and they say, these are your options. Which one would you like us to grow for you? And again, that's caregiver. Try to get that out of a dispo. And I'm not being anti-dispo. I mean, there's going to be a market for everything. I get that, but you're not going to get it. And there's people that are truly on this medication going to the dispo. And I don't mean anything wrong with this. Don't get me wrong. We were all young at one time, but you're going to the disco sick, and they're at the dispo, and they're seeking advice from someone that may have just had a job at a dispo for the first time in their life for the last 2 weeks. You know, so, and I'm not knocking the person. They've got a job, let them work. But at the same token, caregiver, go to someone that's been growing, go to someone that has been assisting people, go to someone that can give you help. Now there are plenty of recreational users, as you know. So, this message is falling on deaf ears, when it comes to rec users. And I understand that. However, rec users, support your caregivers, damn it. Even if you don't support them all the time, give them a little bit of support. Let them know that you're thinking of them. Help them pay the bill.
Yeah. Let's do a little preventative here, because a lot of the times we don't necessarily, and I asked this question a lot lately, why do people wait, as a last resort to try cannabis as a medicine? Why did it take so long to get this way? Why do people who don't use cannabis not get behind it until it's saved them or a loved one, and now they're backing it? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I've got a little experience there, and I can probably answer that for you. At least in my background. Again, I think we touched on this at the cup. When I was 20 years old and I had a joint, it was an old saying when we were kids. Well, we'll never get cancer. Ha ha ha. I'm saying we were fighting it because that was the rumor, quote unquote, because there were no caregivers. There was no real information. There was a few quote unquote hippies back when I was a kid that actually knew what the hell they're talking about, because they're 98-year-old men today. So they must have known more than most people. But at the end of the day, I think that when it comes to people not wanting to get on a preventative or not being on a preventative, I think it comes down to two things, to be quite frank with you. First thing I think it comes to are friends and family. And I'm going to touch base on that with you right now. For 7 years, there's not anyone other than my wife and two very close people that knew I was fighting this disease, other than some medical professions. Because I didn't want to bother the friends and family. I didn't want them to worry about me. I didn't want kids to leave college. I needed life to go on. So that's one thing. And another thing is there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that are programmed to believe they have been sold throughout life because they get sick 3 times a year. They go see the doctor and the doctor gives them medication and it makes them feel better. So now they believe that the doctor, that marijuana is going to do them no good. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I can't tell you how many times I had the doctor tell me, if you keep doing what you're going to do, you're going to die. You need medical treatment. I mean, it's just about the money, man. It's 100% about the money. So when it comes to preventative, I think that people need to take a preventative. I don't care if they take oil like this right here and they put a little bit in a rice grain, whatever, every day. Truth of the matter is, guys, when you're all done to feel right, you're going to be doing about 5 rice grains once or twice a day. That's going to take about 2 weeks to get there to find your level. And that's what we like to call it, finding your level. And even at that point, guys, that shouldn't break the bank. Just find a proper caregiver. 2 grams a month at 5 grains a day. 2 lousy grams a month as a little preventative. You get little capsules get 1,000 capsules for $9 on Amazon, $12 for the veg. And you know what? You got a little preventative. A lot of people, believe it or not, like to do suppositories now. That was a hard message to start passing. You know what? But it's your life, man. When it's your life, it's worth fighting for. So the suppositories are huge, but yeah, people should do a preventative, but they're sold against it by their medical care, their medical doctor. They're sold against it by their family and their friend perception. These are all things that we've discussed with many, many people. And you know what else they're sold against is they are afraid that, and I'm sure this happens quite a bit. It's happened to me. It's happened to everyone. They're afraid that caregiver is charging them more than cost for their product. The truth of the matter is here around here, we put out 70% more product than people help us with cost annually. Because at the end of the day, we just need to kind of break even and wash. We don't need to do all that stuff. We're not in it for that purpose. We're not in it for the purpose of hallelujah and glory. We are in it for the purpose of putting out the best medication to our patients as we possibly put out, period and end. Because again, I don't know why I'm here, Eagle. All I know is I'm alive. So I'm going to do what I can do.
Sounds like you're here to help pass the message, my friend.
Well, that's the plan. That's the plan, Eagle. And I'm hoping that we can get it passed in my lifetime. And I think we can. I think we're on the right track. I personally, and I know a lot of people are going to be anti me on this. But as I told you when we first met, I'm an open book, and I will say it as I see it. I think that event control is actually going to end up being good for the caregivers. I think that very few people are going to go through the steps of being regulated, and all the extra cost and things of that sort. I think that when they're all known and realized, I think that the events are going to slow way, way down. I think it's going to become more about social gatherings, social clubs. And I think that's where the private events will be held. And I think when that's happening, it's going to be with the folks that are there anyways, as a general rule. So I think it's just better for the caregivers at that point. I could be wrong. I don't think so.
I just hope they maintain a place so we can keep our heads above water. I see so many people now,
That
amazing
can't.
growers that are just thinking about throwing it all in because the cost of electricity is going up, the hassle of the price of cannabis is going down. There's so many beatings along the way. It's sad to see that people are turning the lights off.
Well, and it is sad. And you are right. The price of everything is going up. Price of cannabis is going down. Um, Man, I don't know how to say this and not sound arrogant, Eagle. Um, I don't care, and I'm not being facetious. Um, what I care about is making the oil. I mean, all this other stuff, like I said, we make different things to help some of our patients. We make these, and this is how basic we are. You ready? Here's there's our Glorilla vape pen. It's in plastic. You know what I'm saying? It's just a cellophane safety wrap, just so people know it's clean. We're pretty basic, so we don't care about any of that with our patients. What we care about, once again, is the oil. And I hate to sound facetious or arrogant saying that, but this oil is top notch. It doesn't get enough proper publicity. People are still, and it amazes a guy like me because I've taken so much of it. I can tell you what it tastes like. I can tell you what it feels like. I can tell you what it sticks like. I can tell you everything about what it smells like. And it just amazes me how little people really know about fecal and its benefits. It's just, there's just so little. Even just last week, I had somebody ask me, what's FECO, what's CAO, what's RSO? No, I don't know what that is, and I'll tell you the simplest explanation I've given to people that I've come up with is it's a simple, pure, raw cannabis oil. And I found that people accept that better than fully extracted cannabis oil because now they want a definition on fully. We can always drop that in second. You're going to get every benefit of the plant. It's all there. It's full. We can bring that home later. But it just does amaze me on how little people realize, what fecal really is, that it's out there and what it can really help. We had a lady, Edna, here local. I think I told you the story, but she closed a wound that was open for 10 years. And she closed that wound using this oil and using this oil ointment. And the doctors were going to cut her leg off. This is fact. This is all part of the documentary. Producers already spoke with her. I already interviewed her, took the pictures, all kinds of stuff. These two things right here inside of 9 days for the first time in 9 or 10 years, she was able to see light skin over top of the ligament. And when she went to the doctor said, no, we know what you're doing. Just keep doing it because we don't need to cut your leg off anymore. And she still does it this day. This was a couple of years back, and she's very happy. She's very happy. She still has that left leg. Of course, she didn't want to lose it. She already lost her right one below the knee. So it was really important to her to have her left one. So we're grateful that we could help Edna as well. There's just so much, guys. There's so much that can be done with fecal. It's just stupid. I've had people rub it on their temples for migraines. Come on. Rub it on their temples for migraines. That's all I can say about it. It's a miracle. It's absolutely amazing, and it's natural. It's nature's natural cure. That's what I call it.
I wish I would have known about the open wound thing a long time. I almost lost a leg over an open wound. Probably the worst year of my life, man, from a glass cut that it was, about the size of a quarter.
Really?
Even after a long period of healing, and that thing leaked a clear fluid like a teardrop just constantly. And they did not know what the hell was going on. They went in and at one point ripped parts of the
Carved it
cut.
out.
Yeah. and hoped it was just something on the edges, but that didn't work. And then they went in and did a mass. They cut the whole, yeah, they cut the whole thing out, and then did plastic surgery and spun. I couldn't even move that leg for a long period of time because it was so pulled so tight. And they looked at me and they said, if this don't work, we're gonna have to cut it off. And yeah, I wish I would have, because if I could have packed it with full of some cream and some RSO, I mean, it literally, I went through that tear process in the cost of bandages, which was killing me.
Sure.
They actually, it got to be so massive, the cost of fresh gauze. And I've told this story too. They were like, the doctor just trying to save us both some cost was like, you know, feminine hygiene products are very absorbent and sterile. You could put pads on this and probably save some money. I'm like, I'm not doing it. They're like, nobody will know. And I'm like, I will know. I will
know. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, no, that really worked for Edna. A terrible story. We'll get into some other time, but what brought her to that point. But any case, she's still doing well, and that's been years now, and still utilizing the same ointments and still a patient. So it's been just another positive experience. I mean, there's burns. I mean, I personally, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I can't even go over all of my orthopedic issues. It's head to toe. So we'll just leave it at that. I personally go through a jar of this every 48 hours. And that's 4 ounces. However, that's 2 complete head to toes each day. Now, there's just a slap left over for the dogs that get left behind, or for the dog that get left behind for the dogs, just in case they need something. But, it's what it's for, and it's better than taking a Oxycontin or a Percocet, or anything of that sort that's going to affect your guts and just really affect you in so many other negative ways and mannerisms. I'm not going to say manners because they're truly mannerisms, that it affects you. So many people don't realize that because there's isms that change within you when you're on them pharmaceutical grade narcotics. Other than manners, it's just not manners. It's the way you present yourself, period. It's isms, your expectations, your wants, your desires. That narcotic ain't doing any better. I want the next one. It's just always something new. And again, natural. What is wrong with natural? And I'm not, you got to understand something about Archie here. Archie is, I don't even know how to say this one without, and I'm not, but this is how I've been described. A very given, hard leaning right conservative. Don't tell him what to give. He'll just give what he wants, when he can. That's how I'm explained by other people. But at the same token, when I say that, I would literally, here's where I would take fecal if I was in charge. Okay, right now what they did was, to me, sad, by opening it up like that, but not bringing it down the schedule. Now Biden, of course, had to make it appear like he was going to bring it down the schedule by pardoning the federals. Now, in all reality, the pardoning of the federals was very minimal. It affected 6,300 people or something throughout all time with federal marijuana laws and all simple minor possessions. And that's over the entire period of federal prosecutions. So it really wasn't as big of a deal as it was sold. So we were led to believe by doing such that, okay, it's going to come down the schedule too, and things are going to get better. And if it would have gotten better for the caregiver market, at least for the short term. However, what he did was really, really bad to us. by opening up for research and development by these multi-million-dollar corporations that are owned by the pharmaceutical companies. And now because of that, we still have that same issue that we've always had. And this has always been going back again. And I hate to keep saying caregivers, but it's always gone back to caregivers to me. You know, we've got great caregivers all over this great nation, and we really do, everywhere. But yet it's so hard to really collaborate as a coalition. It's impossible, really, multi-state, multi-jurisdiction. It's truly an impossibility to do so and stay within the guidelines. And I think that that's another issue that this entire industry is facing. It goes back to where I was talking about the California vax. Why does everybody want to see a California vax? I really think that through. Because California's been doing it forever and they know what they're doing. End of story. Oh, it's from California. It's great. It's just, it blows me away. I mean, I wish I was young again, I suppose. But when you think about that, the fact of the matter is there are some great top-notch people in California growing. Okay, it's not all just cartel smoke being pumped out. Some really great top-notch people. There's great top-notch people in Oregon growing. There's great top-notch people in Colorado growing and Washington growing. Now, why can't we correlate in such a way? And that's where the Schedule 2 really got to me with Biden. In such a way that we can send our product, or California can legally send their product to us to test or R&D, which if we came down to Schedule 2, it could legally be mailed. You know, again, it's another blockage of caregivers, because there are great people that I would love to learn from out in California. There are great caregivers that I would love to learn from out in Oregon and up in Washington and out in Colorado and even on the East Coast now. But we're just prohibited from doing that. Lack of these events, that they're starting to put a big limitation on the events. Again, I think we hit it, but I think we hit it wrong. I think the events limitation crackdown was against the caregiver. Okay, because the big guy's always going to move forward. I think that's where we're at with it. I think it's all been against the caregiver, 100% across the board. So that's where I'm at with all of that, pal. Every bit of it. But I'll lead the charge. We'll lead the charge. We got no problems. No sound, boss.
Hopefully we find more of us to join in the fight with you. So do you concentrate mainly on outdoors?
Outdoors hoop, we do rotate a couple of indoor cycles. We keep that small normally in-house. That's what I've been smoking on with some oil slick, you know, some indoor oil slick. I don't smoke too much, obviously. Not a big need to. And I feel like I'm taken away from other people when I do, because I'm not going to say I'm high, but I am going to say I feel good. You know, I mean, mentally, I'm there. I mean, you know, I feel good. I mean, physically, I have my problems, but at the same token, I can get by, and I've got a hell of a support team there as well. So I'm very fortunate, man, in having support teams in many different ways, not just growing, but in life in general. So with that being said, I say once again, let's support our caregiver. No, I'm just kidding.
So, I mean, with as much Fico as you're taking there, do you feel the effects of the flower?
No, usually just a little taste, sometimes a little mental, psychological well-being, at least a thought of mental, psychological well-being.
It's a placebo at this point.
Yeah, kind of like a placebo. I got some nice, great, and I haven't even broke it out yet. I've got some nice, great 6-gram hash or 6-star hash that I want to try out. Yeah. And so we'll get to it next week, maybe. We've been just real busy with so many different things. It's been crazy. And you know, we just had a ball this year. I mean, we really did. We had an absolute ball. Considering my physical limitations, like I said, I don't think the guys can do better next year than they did this year. I mean, every caregiver here giving their heart, their soul, and work together to come on. And it was great because we had multiple gardens. You know, multiple caregivers means multiple gardens by law. And what was great was I was able to get all the caregivers to work together to come on the same feed schedule. You know, everybody worked together so that, you know, once we hit equilibrium, and that's what we call it, because whether we're wearing the hoops or we're outdoor, and that's where our big grow is. That's where our medicinal grow is. Whether we're in a hoop or outdoor, we ground grow, but we call it pot growing, even though we use no pots. Because we'll go 42 inches deep, 3-foot round for every baby. And by doing so, we believe that's our heart. We look at it as that's the heart of the child. From the heart comes, you know, obviously the veins and the arteries. We believe that's our root system. And from the dirt surface, medium surface up, that's our body. You know, so that's kind of the way we look at it when we grow. So that's why we do what we do when we switch all that dirt out. Even though we're live, Eagle, I'm a little crazy sometimes. I usually, boy, they get angry too. I usually have the guys replace half the hole every year. On them outdoors. So, and I mean a lot of them, you go 150 north. They're not very happy with that. But you know, the way I look at it is we spent the last year making some more fresh live. So let's put it to work. Even though the other live test out and everything's fine, you know, we do it anyways. You know, what we found was having the ability and people that can commit. And people that get along, real important right there. I mean, that's number one right there. I've got a saying around here, put your hands in the mix, or GTFO. Okay, if you are done and you're early and you see that guy over there still going, you better be over there. So he better be early too, because you're helping him. Okay, we better all shut down early tonight. So my biggest saying is put your hands in the mix. I don't care what you guys are doing, work together. Listen, they do 99.7%. They're great students. And now they're upper echelons. They went from students to upper echelons growers. And they're just a great group of caregivers to have. They allowed me to do the research. They chimed in on it, and we all cooperated with it. Create a great little network, and I'm just personally ready to take my message to Lansing's door. Because it's just time that we stop getting pushed. I'm gonna say it again. I make this oil to save lives, not to make profit. Okay, that should be enough. Enough said. Lansing should hear that. Enough said. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it just seems to me common sense isn't so common anymore.
I agree with that.
You know, and I know I'm not the only guy, because I've got a great coalition. Now, if I've got a great coalition and I'm just an old hillbilly in the woods anymore with too many dogs and some pot plants, how many other people got great coalitions? You know, whether it's 2 or 4 or 8 or 10 or 50 or 100, I don't care how big of a coalition. How many other people got a great coalition? Let's put them to work.
I appreciate the fact that you're teaching your patients as well how to sustain themselves, with the
Oh
power
yeah,
of
no,
God.
you got to. That happened for me. And if it didn't, I'll tell you the truth of the matter. My wife and I probably living under a bridge. If it really didn't happen for me. Even at, a lot of people don't realize 15 grams sounds like a lot, but let's put it into a different perspective. Even if I had to purchase 450 grams a month, um, it became a mandatory thing for us. And when I started getting better, it was just time to help other people.
You're gonna, man. Well, it's a weird thing. You gonna donate that carcass to science when you go, man. That's a when you, especially when you put it in a month number like that. That is.
I really thought about that, but Eagle, I'll tell you, I am who I am, and I've always had this vision of being tacked to a tree facing the east. Just going all natural. I just hate to say it, but it's just been my vision, brother. Chain me up to a tree and run. That's all. Get out of there. It's over. It's over. But no, I do hear you. I think that there's, I've got Nick in Kalamazoo. He's at 5 or 6 grams a day, and he's just getting started. He says, so he's another great candidate. He was really, really bummed out with the event cancellation at New Year's because he was going to be a speaker. He was going to bring his body up there, and he was going to speak about the benefits and how the doctors and the Mayo Clinic and all them people gave up on him. But yet the oil saved him, and it still has him here this day. So he was really bummed out. I was looking forward to putting that poor man up there. He needed it.
You can pass his info to me because I'd love to hear the story.
Oh, I will. Nick is his name. I'll send you a message. Absolutely, I absolutely will. He's just absolutely amazing to me. It's almost like no one wanted to help him, and we crossed paths, and he's with us today. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, I do. I've heard past guest, friend of the show, Buddy Kilowatts, there talk about the California cannabis thing there as an extinction level event. Well, I think the medical side of things is at a extinction level event. We need to get these stories out. We need to, remind people of the power of the medicine before the recreation does steamroll right over us.
Well, how? Let me ask you a question. You have children.
3.
Can I ask your youngest age?
Yeah, 18.
Okay. Well, when your 18-year-old was 10, and probably not even at 18. So we're gonna kind of hedge that a little bit. Would you want your child driving down the freeway, looking at a bunch of nudies advertising the porno industry? They're glorifying recreational weed. Again, I am the most giving, hard right leaning conservative you've ever known. But at the same token, as much as I am pro capitalism, get rid of them damn billboards glorifying recreational weed. Get rid of them now. Because everybody knows, everybody in the country, guys, I hate to disappoint you guys spending your money on the billboards. Everybody in the country knows what state's legal and what state's not. End story. Why the billboards? They got Google. Hello. I just really think I don't need a billboard. If I want some pot, I got Google. Why are we doing it? Once again, it's got to be about taxation. You run out the space to the billboard, you report your income, you pay taxes. Why are we doing it? We would not allow that. We would not allow a digital porno ad on the side of the freeway. We would not allow it. We would not glorify it. Now, if we're not going to glorify, if we're going to glorify recreational, if we're going to glorify it, we're going to sell it from a young age up. Because it's okay, because mom and dad's driving down the freeway and they don't cover their eyes. It ain't 1977 anymore. Kids look down. You know, you don't even hear that anymore. You know, hey, kid, hey, somebody record that is what you hear nowadays. It's just, it's going to get worse because of the glorification and the holiness and the ability. Look, one thing you and I both know is a lot of caregivers have gone to fancier packaging. Now they've gone to fancier packaging. Let me ask you a question. Do you smoke the package? You eat the package. I don't smoke it. I don't eat it. I don't lick it. I don't smell it. I don't even wipe my hind end with it. Okay, I don't need that. I just don't need it, and I'm not even being a cheap bastard. I'm being realistic. I don't need the package. Okay, does it look cool? Maybe if I was 21 and I wanted to impress the girl at the party. And I'm not even being funny when I say that. But you know, I just need plain packaging. That's all I need is plain packaging. Nothing more. And I don't even do this for my customers. I do it so that I feel good about myself. Because we created it, it makes me feel good. This is our first year, by the way, with some lives. As you can tell, they came out pretty darn nice. You know, that's through the glass, and they just came out clean and clear, very fresh. It's almost like climbing into the trees. And it was our first year, but we had, you know, like I said, we did a field trim. So they got trimmed live on the plants, and then they got, you know, immediately vacuumed, immediately frozen as fast as possibly can be. So it was fun. We'll probably do some next year as well. But when it comes down to it, we need that message patch, brother. You know this, I know this. For any of your followers, I'm willing to be the poster child. Let's just get the message passed and come up with a plan to get it done. You know, let's just do that. I'm alive. I'm here for a reason. It's got to be it. It's got to be it. If it's not it, well, I've made a lot of mistakes before. We'll learn from it. But in the meantime, let's get the message out there. That's where I'm at with it, brother.
I agree. And again, it is important that we get the message out there. So, you know, even if, as we talked about earlier, there's so many people that use it as a last resort. If we could provide more cases like you.
Without the message, they're not going to get it, Eagle. They won't get it.
You know, I just think we may get more people on board a little bit sooner than later.
I put out a post the other day. I used to think about more people. It used to be my regular thought. There's so many people sick, why me? And I caught myself making a post the other day that I'll help one at a time, and after I help that one, I'll help the next one. And I've come to realization, and I've actually come to acceptance that if I can only help one at a time, as long as I'm giving them help, we're good. We're good. Just give me the ability to go help another one. I'm good. You know, I don't know what else to say. But no, if we can just get the message out, get the people together, get the fear out of the people, because one of the things that I'm seeing on social media and reading about is not only are caregivers ran out because they've already gone broke, You got caregivers that want to jump out because they don't want to go broke, or because they're afraid they're gonna lose, or switching industries, whatever the case may be. And I just don't think it needs to happen. I think that we need power by numbers. We need the caregivers to stand together, and we need to have real rallies. And I'm not blasting anyone, but it's my understanding, like the invalidated signatures for the Let Our People Grow. You know, a lot of Indiana, a lot of Ohio's, a lot of them were gathered at the events. Again, that's organization. If there was organization there, those signatures wouldn't have been there, so they wouldn't have been nullified, and nobody would have ever thought that they had enough signatures. You know, and they would have just kept going and gotten the appropriate number of signatures. And it's just that simple to me. Even on passing this caregiver message, I sit here and I tell you that I don't think we'll ever get it passed. But on the same token, I know it's a simple damn thing to do. But maybe it's too simple for acceptance. Maybe people don't want to believe that they've got a $390,000 CAT scan machine over there. So there's no way that cannabis oil is going to help me. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's been sold. Maybe it's been sold. Remember the GE commercials when MRIs were first coming? Maybe you're too young for that, but when MRIs first came out, they had commercials about MRIs. Yes, commercials. And I think, and then thinking back, that was for conditioning. It was subliminal. That was, you know, hey, go get your MRI. It's comprehensive. It's the most complete. They can get your body to toe. You used to be able to pay to walk in down in the city and go get an MRI head to toe, just to get one. Just to get your body scanned. So I think that was just conditioning of people. I think now it's more, we've been conditioned to the point that if they've got a white jacket on, we better get down on our hands and knees.
That MRI is horrible for you, by the way. It actually changes your DNA.
Yeah. But people were conditioned. They were conditioned, and I hate to say it, but it's just what it was. I mean, and I see it in everything anymore. I see it all the way down to snacks, beverages, medicine. Maybe as I got older, maybe it's always been there, and perhaps just as I got older, I started seeing it. Drinks. I mean, we're conditioned across the board, financially, and that is exactly what's happening in this market, in the marijuana industry. Is the people are being conditioned to go to the dispensaries. Now, here's what the people need to ask themselves: what happens if? And I'm going to use that word "if" very, very softly. Don't forget, there was prohibition on alcohol, and alcohol was never stopped. So I'm going to use that word "if" very, very softly. What happens if they push the caregivers out? What's the dispensary's limits then? They still going to have $7 eighths? I bet you they're all $50 or north.
Well, once they get rid of us, the price will go back up, I think. 100%.
Yeah. And people will be used because they'll be conditioned. They'll be conditioned because they got them $7 eighths that are bringing people into the dispensaries. And while they're in there buying that $7 eighth because they just saved $20, they may as well spend that $20 over at that counter. They're being conditioned. Now, they didn't even go in for that $20 product.
It was funny. I was smirking a little bit when you said that prohibition didn't stop alcohol. Well, it didn't.
Yeah.
Prohibition didn't stop cannabis either.
No, right on. Right. Well, I mean, the big guns out, Tommy guns. The government realized, but the problem with cannabis, once again, is the fact that it's not man-made. It's man-grown, it's man-loved, human. But it's not man-made. Therefore, no one can control it. And if no one can control it, where's the money really go? So the government has to put out so many confusing regulations, and they've got to allow each state to make independent laws before the feds come in, so that the feds can then worsen the confusion by throwing every state a set of federal laws. That it's just going to be, it's awful. It's got awful. What's really going on, and people don't realize it, that it's no different than the prohibition of alcohol. The only reason they brought the prohibition of alcohol so back after such a short period is because it was man-made. It was something that could have a patent. It was something that could be taxed. It was something that the federal government seen a financial benefit from. And I hate to say it, but until the Fed government sees a financial benefit, that's the fight on that. And I hate to say this, I think that's double-edged. The minute they get a financial benefit, I think it's all corporate. And I don't think the little guy can swim with sharks. So I think either way, it's an uphill battle. But again, for anyone out there, I'm willing to be the poster child. We can use me, we can throw me out there, we can put me on the end of a fishing pole and cast me if you need to. Let's just gather some attention.
I think you're gaining some traction 100%, and it's nice to be able to get your message across, clearly and loudly. I think that's may have been one of the turning points for me when I seen you speak the other day, and the recreational shuffle conversation just was like drowned. You were drowned it out by the rec. That realistically,
Right.
That was the aha moment for me, that we were losing such ground. I'm like, seriously, look at this. These people do not give a shit. And it bothered me. It seriously bothered me.
You want me to tell you what happened? I just said it. During the creation of these events, those folks, they've been conditioned. They've been conditioned to do what they do, to go spend their money and move through. It's sad to say, but it's just true. That's why, it's going to be a tough one, but we really want the 420 event up, and we're putting together a good coalition to bring it together. But I think that people are just going to have to band together and do CRA registered events, deal with the CRA at the events, and, give the CRA the optics that they want.
There needs to be more patient seating, room for people to sit down and network and have fun instead of being pushed through.
Sure. I think that there's a lot that the state can do. Like, for example, I believe that we can allow a cannabis market, not necessarily for sales, but I think that we can bring growers in, and they can set up a, if you will, a portable grow chamber that they can take around, and they can, let's look at the fact of the matter. Parents take their children to Chicago to learn how they reverse the water for the river. Okay, that's the fact of the matter. And they pay to get in, and they go do this tour, and they play with little silly toys, and they walk out the other door. So if you really had the ability to show someone how to grow marijuana and any step further than they know now, okay, they'll be there and they'll support you. How do I know this? Because if you get online on some of these social pages and you see some of the questions that these folks ask just to get ridiculed by the senior grower that, is all that, et cetera, et cetera. The need for it's there, but the support for it is not.
I can agree with that. It kind of brought me, I was going to say a little bit and mention that a little bit when we were talking about some of the problem in banding and side by side is it's a multi-level friggin' fight. We've
Yeah.
got these larger girls trying to push us out, and then we have money and ego with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
It's
said. No competition. Band together.
I
Band
agree.
together. I don't care who you are. If you're in it, this is how I feel. If you're in it for the right cause and you're in it to help people out and you're not in it to be one of them, you know what I'm talking about. Be one of those. Then let's be friends. Even if you don't like me, let's at least be associates so that we can bounce off of each other and help each other out. And I think that needs to happen, or there's that ego between people. Like I entered my first competition and I almost didn't do it there at the cup with this oil, and this salve. And I took first and second in that order: oil, salve. Now, the reason it was my first ones was because there was so much ego being played by other growers that I just didn't want to get involved because it didn't matter to me. At the end of the day, it just mattered. But this time they just kept pushing me with the ego, so I had to enter. And that was that. But it's not that hard. I want to be honest with you. It's all great. They give you a little plaque, says you took first and second place. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be a craft grower, you may as well be a craft medicine maker. And it's just not that hard to make a quality medicine. It's the decision of the seed before the greed. The truth of the matter is on this oil right here, I can get 88 grams, maybe 90 out of a pound. But we accept 44 just because it's the quality. So when you put the quality over the quantity and the seed before the greed, I think no matter who you are in this industry, you've got a winning combination. And I think if you can take that winning combination and pass it off to one other person that can keep passing it off to one other person, I think sooner or later that coalition is built. Now call me a dreamer. Call me the right-leaning conservative beetle. Okay, it don't matter. Maybe we're all dreamers in one sense or another. Maybe they had it right. But I think it can be done. And I think that the egos have got to go. I think as long as the caregiver egos are there, I think that there's no reason for the state to support you. Now, I think that as long as the state's not behind you, now I think if the state was behind the caregiver a little bit, I think the caregiver would get more medicinal side corporate support from the corporate players. I think the corporate players would say, well, we can't help you, but maybe, if you go see if they're accepting new patients, maybe they can help you. But I think that that's going to take state compliance. Isn't that a fun story? Or for a fun statement? State compliance. We need the state to comply, damn it. And, damn, I kind of like this. There you go. I kind of get it all out there. And that's what we need is, we're off a track, and you really don't want to get me going on this. We don't have enough time tonight, but we're off a track, guys. You got to listen to me. We're off of track. First of all, don't anyone please lose value here. Get ready to vote your representatives out. Although a majority of the people voted for this marijuana act, there is a way around it for our legislators. If they spend $50,000 on an appropriation to do a study on the impact of medical marijuana, It no longer takes a super majority to change anything. It just takes a simple majority. All they have to do is spend 50,000 taxpayer dollars. They just did that recently with our no-fault insurance. They took our no-fault insurance to the polls twice. The people of Michigan said, leave it alone. We'll pay the extra. We want the greatest insurance in the country. The state went to bed with the insurance companies. Imagine that, the word insurance again. The state went to bed with the auto insurance companies and just recently changed the no-fault insurance, and they put limits on it, or offering limits and offering an exuberant amount of money to have non-limits. So the same thing happened again with insurance. The point is we need to stand up. We need to come together. We need to get the state in compliance. And how do you do it? How do you get the state into compliance? You vote. You vote. You talk to your reps. We talked about we're trying to set up a 420 event. One of my partners will personally go talk to every rep, every council member, every mayor, every business owner at potential venue that he possibly needs to talk to. And that's how we win. We win by communicating. You know, we win by passing the message. We win by, no, guys, let me rephrase that. We win by pounding the message, because we're too small of a force and too large of a pool to try to pass anything. We're going to get swept away in the current. We live by pounding it and pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. And if you can change one person's opinion or get one person to work with their caregiver, one a month, if so many of us can do that one time a month, we're gonna get opinion swayed and changed, and the politicians are gonna listen to us. And that's what we need, because again, it comes down to you having the ability to preserve your own life, to preserve your own health, and to do it in such a way, to do it in such a manner. I mean, our government's allowing us to go out there and buy a fifth of booze. And you ready for this one? You can buy a fifth of booze at the liquor store. You can go across the street to the gas station, fill up, crack that fifth of booze, start drinking on it, cross the freeway, get on the ramp, and go 75 miles an hour. It's insanity, guys. Come on. Now, why is that, do you think? Do you think maybe them car accidents make money? Oh, there's a thought. Again, I hate to sound like a conspiracy therapist, but now you got the ambulance run, you got the tow truck run, you got the police officer justification, possible fire department, hospital, medical bills, and insurance companies all involved once again. I mean, why allow the guy to pick up a fifth of booze and go down the freeway? You know, it's just insanity to me. I said it yesterday. I know a lot of times I've been this fool. I've been this fool when I was young. Going to the bar, get lit up, and get into a scuffle. You show me a pothead lounge. You show me a lounge where a bunch of potheads get into a scuffle because they're having a good time. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to be so rare. It's not going to be anything to do with the pot or the attitude. It's going to be a real scuffle over something stupid. But yet the government is standing behind all of these other things for one reason: taxation. They get tax on that alcohol. They get tax on that beer. They get tax on that insurance bill. They get tax on that hospital bill. They get tax on the tow truck bill. They get taxed everywhere. And I hate to keep going back to this, but as long as they're going to keep prohibiting us from working freely with nature's natural medicine, nature's natural cure, you have to think about why. You have to think about why. The federal government, I don't care what state we're in, is getting zero tax. Zero tax. They're not happy. They're not happy. The state has proven now to be in bed with the corporates. Otherwise, the medical dispensaries wouldn't be dropping. They're getting 18% tax on the rec versus 6% on the medical. Open up your eyes, people, and go to a caregiver and say to hell with them. Shut them out. flip it overnight, wake up tomorrow almost like the GameStop saga, and just shut the dispos down.
You know, that's kind of funny that you say that. A friend of mine, me and Mr. Smiley were talking the other day about the dispos and everything else, trying to squeeze us out. And he asked me, well, oh, how the fuck can we, what can we do about it? You know what I mean? I said, well, we teach them how to grow. We teach them how to grow, and we teach them how to fucking vote with their dollars. As soon as we start pulling our dollars out of the dispos, shit will change. Trust me.
It's got to change. I mean, it's really got to change. So many people aren't realizing. You know, people need to go to the dispo, and they need to buy 10 of those vape carts. The 10 for 100, 10 for 120, whatever they get. And then they need to take the labels off and send them in for testing. They need to wise up. They need to wise up. Because here's the question. We touched on it a touch earlier on carrier agent. Here's the question. You take a cart like this. You take this cart right here. Okay. And you take it and you put some PG, some PEs, some MCTs, whatever you want to put in it. Then you add your terps. Okay, because when you're working with a distillate, it's distillated, right? Okay, so you don't add these things as a rule, or most people do. So how is it you can take that milliliter and say you got to cut it by 60% to add all those other things? Say it's only 50%. How is it it's still running 73% THC? Because that's what the damn box says. Now, rumors out there that a lot of them's cut as much as 90%. Now, the word is the box says 72%, 69%, 77%, because when the pure distillate, the uncut distillate, was sent in for testing, it came back at that percentage. And guess what they get the label with? The report from the pure distillate. It don't matter that they've done cut it down to bring it up. And that's another problem. I mean, someone should really do that. And I've thought about doing it myself, but I despise dispensaries so much I don't even want to give them $120. And it's not that, it's just wrong. I mean, come on, man, we built this industry. You know, they should respect us. They should ask for our help. They should seek our help. Period and end. They should create, with all the millions they're making, some sort of a caregiver outreach program to help connect their most ill patients with local caregivers. No, you're off, pal.
Sorry about that. If they can't do that, they at least need to take a percentage of their flour and give free flour away to patients. They need to bite the bullet.
Something. They need to do something. It's a money grab. It's a fee grab. We used to call it a fee grab. It's a fee grab, no matter how I look at the dispensary operations anymore. It's as soon as you go in there, you know you're being sheepled, because the first thing they want to do is tell you about all their good deals, and then they want to point you to the top shelf. This is the man that just went there the other day, and he purchased a $7 and a $50. They went exactly that way. They wanted to tell him about all the good deals and point them to the top shelf. That's why how he ended up getting both of them, because they pointed them to both of them. He was sheepled right from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? This one's $50 and it's great. This one's only, think it through. This one's only 7. So if you're spending 50 and you're there, you may as well try the other one for $7. You know, it's like the restaurant. They recommend special. Why? Because the boss told them it's the moneymaker today. You know, go sell the meatloaf. You know, it's just we're being sheepled again. But this time it's playing with our health. You know, and people got to realize that. You know, try to go to a dispo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm having a hell of a time finding full fecal, real fecal at a dispo. You go online every day and look, and it doesn't seem to be there. No, you're off again, brother.
Thank you. You're quick on it too. See, that fucking Spico doesn't slow you down at all.
I'm good to go. We'll go all night.
You've seen that shit from when legal states actually took like when they went medical, the ones that just went medical oil, you know, they offer like a few licenses. In most cases, they couldn't fill those licenses just to produce a CBD oil. Nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody, you couldn't make no money off it. And then when they reached out to other states to source their oil, they had trouble finding sources for it, because again, the medical states that they couldn't even keep up themselves, and most of the people that were producing medical products were already switching over to the recreational side of the market because of too much testing and everything else, you know, and it's greed. Every time medical falls to the side, because the quicker, more dollar falls to the recreational side of cannabis, and it's disgusting. It really is.
Well, isn't that what really happened with alcohol prohibition? Wasn't it put under prohibition because it was terrible for the person? It created bad health benefits. It was Lord awful, creating issues, people getting killed and dead. But at the end of the day, didn't it really affect them financially, cost them a lot of money to put all the war on alcohol? And they brought it back to the money, in a very short amount of time. It's just the same, but again, there's the one problem, and that's the international law of the patent on a living organism.
I just think that once the recreational goes, you know, across the board there, you know, we're going to see it on every billboard at that point. It's going to be a few strains that the big guys push, and it will be on the billboard, just like you're saying. It'll be try the cookies for your anxiety, whatever. It will be to that point at that.
Sure, at that point, that's where it's going to go. And in the meantime, guys,
that's when the craft will come back, I think.
Yeah, and I would hope so, because if we don't fight, we're going to lose. And when I say fight, I use that term loosely. Of course, I'm speaking figuratively, not literally. But just as a little disclaimer there. But if we don't fight, we're going to lose. We got to fight for the right. I know that's a little cliche, but at the same time, here's what I know. Here's what I truly know. Oil like this, back in the 70s, late 60s, two people had access to it. The rich and the famous, and the true West Coast hippie. The guy that went to school to become the guy to learn how to make oil out of marijuana. That's the only reason he even went to school. He didn't want no degree for a job when he was done. He knew his plans already. Now, I know that was like that back in the 70s. Now, with that being like that back in the 70s, why is it not being more known about? Why is it not more known about? Why is the effects and the benefits of a raw, full spectrum natural oil not known about? So many people contact me to discuss cancer because their family told them, and they had no idea that cannabis could help cancer, that cannabis oil can help cancer. Why wouldn't more people know versus how many people know about them recreational signs? You know, a lot of people know where every recreational sign is, and where the dispensaries are, but they don't know the health benefit, man. They don't know the health benefit. It's blowing me away. It's like, are you kidding me?
You know what the sad thing about it is around here, there is two types of billboards around me right now. One of them is for the local dispos, and then
Gotta
the
fill it.
other one is begging
Recovery.
you to lock your cannabis up because it's that dangerous.
Right. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? And then you ready for this one? The third one's about, and Lord, please do not take this on a personal level, anyone. This is about the corporate portion. And the third one is about medical billable. Let me put that hedge in there so it doesn't come back and bite me personally. Medical billable addiction recovery services. Not free addiction recovery services, not community supported addiction recovery services, because even they're medically billable. Our state community health system bills the feds. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a nice free service, and the feds are paying for it. So, I mean, it's all medical billable is my point. And so you look at those, and what does it come always back to? It comes back to is how is the palm of the taxation department of various governmental agencies getting greased? Getting greased. What's the one difference between the caregiver and the corporation? And with their connection to the taxation department. Corporation's more controllable. You know, so these are the real troubles we're in. And I hate to put it out here live and on the air like this, but it's just the truth. I'm certainly not, you know, being anti-government or anti-taxation or anti-anything. You know, it's just the truth. It's what we're up against. And in the meantime, people are dying that don't need to die. Some of them can live. They just have to know about their options, and they have to know about the abilities of things. I think it's just really that simple, Eagle, that we're being always 100% of the time since Woodrow Wilson just spun around the corner time and time again. The government likes to dance. They like to twist. They like to twirl. They like to spin you until you're so damn dizzy you don't even know what to talk about anymore. And that's what happens in every industry. And it's going down in this industry now because we were talking about craft coming back. You and I both know once the government's making money, we're spending money either way. That program's never stopping. Never has in time. So what's our option other than just people looking out for people, hoping, what are they going to do? Lock us all up? I mean, you know, they're going to lock you up for helping people. Really? Has the world really come to that? Is the rest of the world going to stand by? You know, because if they are, lock my ass up. Throw away the key because I don't want to know the rest of the world. You know, period. I just don't want to know them, man. It just ain't worth knowing anymore. Has the world really come to harming people for helping people? You know, something to really think about. It really seems that way. I'm not willing to lay down on that. I'm not willing to lick myself on that one. If they want to do that, well, damn it, don't get me too fired up, but let's go. But I just know that people need to stand up for their rights. Back in the 60s and 70s. Come on, man. People bonded together. People laid in front of buses. Buses never ran them over. We're not China. Buses didn't run them over. They knew better than run them over. People stopped doing these things. I don't know why. A little bit after my time, but yet I still respected it because it was still spoke about when I was a young child. It got things done. It got things listened to. People bonded together. You know what? You touched on it. They didn't have them egos. If there were caregivers, licensed caregivers back in the 60s and 70s, you want to know what they would have done? They would have bonded together. That was it. They didn't have a keyboard to hide behind and insult the other caregiver. Isn't the intent, whatever happened to the intent? I don't care what the caregiver is doing, as long as they're helping. Why are we going to bash each other? Why? It happens so much. And all of the theft and all of the lies, the cheat, the this, the that, it's blowing me away, Eagle. I ain't gonna lie about it. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's blowing me away. And all of this is happening in the name of what? In the name of caregiving. I think someone forget all about care and giving. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything that's going on out there is just getting a little bit backwards, at least on the ego point of things. And I think that we can do better, and I think we will. I think that if Michigan, Michigan likes to say they modeled themselves off of Colorado. Now Michigan wants to spin that. And I wonder if that was an intentional spin, because Colorado's 6 plants, I believe, Michigan's 12. Okay, so is Michigan really now trying to spin it, saying, well, we should have went to 6 plants? If so, just say it. Just say it, because one thing I know about man, give him 2 years, he's going to be getting more out of 6 than he ever got out of 12. That's what I know.
That's the way I've always encouraged people, is grow that bigger plant. And when I first started looking around, I seen a lot of people growing, and flipping all 12 and 4x4s. And, I'm like,
isn't that great?
Oh, slow it down, bigger plants. You do the same. You got to count, make it count.
Yeah, gosh, we run about 100,000 square foot of outdoor space. And that's usually for 120.
Are the girls behind you for indoor, or are those girls waiting to go outdoors next year? Holy cow.
No, actually, that's a long story. That plant is a genetic that was very short-lived. And it's as a matter of fact, it made this here. See, that's yeah. And that's just really an amazing. Maybe that'll help me get a little better picture. That's an amazing rosin. Lighting is not really helping. It's really light. Doesn't really look that light, but it's very light, very clean. Just absolute fire. It's called Oil Slick, put out by Greenpoint Genetics. And it's just a great indoor-outdoor grower. And it's my understanding I may have the last 21 on the face of the earth. So I actually just cut 3.5 foot off of those the other day, 3 foot, just to put them under control for the winter. If they're the last ones, I'm going to hold on to the genetics. It's just what we do a lot around here. We'll just keep them going for a while. They've been a great plant. Another great oil maker, Oil Slick. Imagine that. It's got the word oil in it. Another great, just another great indica. We couldn't get any better. Another one's called periwinkle pie. Great for oil. I'm really genetics people bound. Now, there's a little bit of difference between me and most people. I like to work with the genetics company that are new to the national market. And there's a reason for that. They've got a little bit of funding, but they're not so big they're cocky yet. But they gotten big enough to where now they can work nationally. So you got a little bit of, excuse the expression, but there's a little bit of ass behind their word. And we like to seed grow, and I'm not a copy person myself. I like growing everything from seed. I'll help other people with copies, but at the end of the day, I want every one of my babies to come from a seed. I believe they're stronger plants. I believe they're more natural. They say that copies are exact copies. I'm not sold. I'm not sold at all, because a seed starts in the heart, pops the veins in the arteries. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the case with a copy. I mean, a copy starts in the water and creates veins and arteries from an abnormal spot of the plant. So I can't, I don't know. I guess I'm just old, Eagle. Coming back to, I guess I'm just old and I think like a simpleton, because there's no way that copy is an exact copy of the mother. I grow too many plants of exact strain, side by side to look at the difference in the phototype and the genes. When you look at those plants side by side, you can see the different characteristics in the exact same strains. And that alone tells me that there's so many variables. Are them characteristics truly different because of the genes, or are they different because this plant's 12 foot further over there and it's receiving that much different light, that much different wind, that much different shade, that much different air, the hole's drying out 4% faster? You know what I'm saying? There's so many different variables to really consider that we can drive ourselves crazy growing. There's no doubt about that one. But here's how I've learned our garden. I used to play a lot. I used to kill plants intentionally. Used to make my guys cry. Used to walk around the field. Mm-hmm. Well, back in the day, I was 100% in a wheelchair. So I used to roll around the field with my scooter. And I used to dump a quart of Powerade Zero in this plant, just to see what it was going to do. I didn't know I was killing them. Let me tell you, don't ever give them Powerade Zero, brother. That's overnight death. And I mean death. There's no savior. They go quick. And then I'd leave them up for the year. You know what I'm saying? I'd leave them up standing brown and dead, just so that the guys would know, that's what happens when you screw up. Mm-hmm. So I got in the habit of doing that yearly, killing a plant or two for a while until I got the proper team established. And they learn to give them care, and that's just what we have to do in order to further advantage ourselves, and take things to the next level. The biggest thing that I can tell everyone right now is we can do all this naturally. We don't need to do it with all the chemicals. We don't need bud hardeners. Why? Buds can get hard all by themselves. You know what I'm saying? We just got to treat them right. We don't need all of the BS to give us fake medicine. We can make it naturally, and I think more people need to get on that path. That's where I'm at with everything, pal. Medicine. People are sick. Let's help them.
100%. I honestly believe that, and again, this is one of the things I thought was cool about what you do is, after giving them a good head start, or, whatever you want to call it, you do teach them to kind of sustain for themselves. I honestly think that the cultivation side is almost equal to the medicine itself, especially when you're in that need and you need something to kind of get you up and moving throughout the day, trying to, I gotta take care of them plants. If anything happening like that, with them today, do they need to be watered? That draw, and then creating the medicine for yourself. That can
Well,
do. I did this. That's pretty huge medicine itself.
well, I'm glad you mentioned on that because I'll tell you something I learned personally. Um, there's people, not there's most people. Unfortunately, we deal with very ill people. Um, they don't have the ability, physically and or whether it's a lack of a partner, demographics. There's a lot of different reasons that they don't have the ability. Sometimes it's just energy, age, physical ability. The illness has got them to the point that they can't grow right now because they're just too sick. That's why we just like to push them initially through specifically if they're so ill that we know they're not going to get out there and do what they need to do. We like to push them through that. Let's get them better phase if we can, and then take them right in. And almost as soon as they're better, it's time for you guys to make medicine for yourself. And it really, really is. And it doesn't affect us, which is the greatest part in the world. It doesn't affect us to teach people. We always take a little bit less than it costs to make. And because we do that, we don't lose anything. And most people, I think, make a little bit of profit, whether they do or that's their business. But if they do, obviously, people that are making profit don't want to show people how to make things. To where I kind of have a whole different goal, a whole different avenue, a whole different route for a whole different platform for this. And I'm not so much, and I know it sounds crazy, and it's going to sound crazy to most of everyone out there, but children's lives. We're in this to help people. We're not in this for the profits. We'll worry about the profits down the line and not helping our fellow citizen. We'll do it another way. Our fellow man, we'll just help. So teaching people is almost, and you're right, not even just growing. We work daily. I work daily online with people on cultivating, and I'm no expert. I mean, I reach out for help all the time. I reach out for advice. What a lot of people don't know, and I'm telling them myself now, is they'll ask me questions. I may not know the answer. I'll ask someone else, and then I'll go back and answer party A after I achieve the answer. But at the end of the day, who cares as long as they're getting the answer? So yeah, cultivation is really, really important, but they need to be healthy enough. They have to do it. I mean, you met me. I'm a little bit different than most, and I realize this, and I'm good with it. I don't give two shits. I mean, it's who I am. It's who we all are. But there's not too many people that sit out there in their scooter, throwing up over the side, working their garden. But we're in a position where that's the position that we chose for ourselves. And everybody, I got to tell you, it's hearing the C word sucks. It sucks. But don't give up, man. Fight. And that's what it really always comes down to for us. I'm always back to that same theory. Don't give up, fight. I've seen too many before this in life. I've seen people content with dying. I've seen people even before hospice became a thing, that their doctors told them they were sick and they were dying. So it was okay. It was okay because their doctors told them that. That's it. And there for things today that would never even be considered something deadly or at least allowed to go that far. But if people will accept that in the world and accept that in the past and accept that in life, even like we were talking earlier, hospice, will accept hospice telling them they're gonna die. Accept it, move on, free your family, whatever BS they're passing. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm just gonna put it out there. And hospice, I apologize, no disrespect meant. Actually, the 1.87%, I think it is, of charity hospices, I have respect, nothing but love and respect for you guys. But I think out of all of the hospice, it's like 1.87%. It might even be 1.27% now, you know. Are charities. The rest are billable hospices. So we got almost 100% of all hospices for profit now. That started off as 100% nonprofit and free services. So recreational, think it through. Once the money's earned, brother.
So as far as hospice goes, I've heard and talked about this lately is and I don't know how you feel about, you know, mushrooms, psilocybin and stuff like that, but I've heard hospices, a few hospices trying a psilocybin treatments during the
Transition.
yeah, and people, you know, finding peace in the transition. Have you heard about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Since we're on talking about
I've
hospice and you know, humane
not
way
read
of,
about it directly, but I have heard about it happening down in the Ann Arbor area. Now, I've not read about it, so I don't know who it would, but here's where I'm at with it again. Well, I don't know how to say this and not sound like a complete and utter jerk, but I'm going to throw it out there. I think that if somebody's under the age of 72 years old and they're talking to hospice, they've been misled. Let me clarify, not rephrase. I think that if someone's under 72 years of age, hasn't been in a dramatic injury, hasn't been in a car accident, hasn't been in something of that sort, trauma, and they're speaking to hospice, they've been misled. They've either been misled right then, or they've been misled throughout a portion of their life that put them in the position that they're in. I think that I think 72 is a great medium age. I know people personally over 100. I know a lot of 90-year-olds. I know a 102-year-old fecal user. Claims he's gonna make it to 135 because of the fecal. So you know, we'll see. But at the end of the day, I think that hospice, anyone that's speaking to hospice for a natural disease that whether it's THC or any other natural plant, I think that the natural plant should be offered prior to the end stage, is my true belief. I think that if it's going to help them with transition at the end, it's new, I get it, but it's not new. So many, you know, same with marijuana, you get the story. But with hospice utilizing for end stage transition, let me ask you a question. It's municipally legal, but why? Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Am I to understand correctly here? We are legal 100% in the city of Ann Arbor. Decriminalized.
yes.
Did they limit that to certain portions of Ann Arbor or all of it?
All of it.
Yep. So can U of M use it now?
You would think so. They're based there.
Well, I'm gonna make
So
a call in the morning. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna call out for treatment. But no, back to the point is that's where I was going was, how do we know? And it's all gonna come down to R&D, of course. How do we know this? How do we know it doesn't help Parkinson's? How do we know it doesn't help Alzheimer's if used earlier in life? How do we know? Why are we assuming that it's great for the transition, but we're not going to R&D it for something 20 years before now that made this premature transition necessary today?
the same old answer, fucking government, to be honest with you. And that's the sad thing about R and
Cheap,
D.
cheap. You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. Cheap, 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 yet big billing. Think about the growth cost and factor in fungus. Cheap, inexpensive.
Same with cannabis. As far as what we're talking about medicine.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes down to medicine, yeah. I mean, you're talking $1,700. You're gonna know one of those three things for $1,700 lousy dollars, and you can make it your damn self if you want. So it's cheap. We all blow that, you know that.
Why does it take so much for research and development? I've been on the fence about pulling that, making sure we pull the medical cards, for many reasons. And Miss Angel there, posed my counterpoint there, and I was like, maybe there's a lot of truth to what you're saying there. But in the same aspect, numbers drive research and development. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I know.
unfortunately, we have to make the numbers for them to give a shit. And that's the other problem with recreational. We seen it here in Michigan. Oh, okay, it's rec. How many people went? Well, I don't need to give the doctor any money now. I don't need to give the state any money. I know it's my medicine. I'll just go to the dispo. You know what I mean? And now that's one less card that draw research or attention. You know what I mean? And it was huge. The impact, the numbers of cards that went down just the year of
Just the year of rec. Absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. And I think that the only thing that we have going for us there, and I have to say this again, is listen, here's what we know. We know throughout time and history, every dying breed banded together in an attempt not to die. Whether they got along, didn't get along, when it came down to the end, they got together and they fought. And it didn't matter who it was or what it was. And I think that we're actually up against that point. And I think that it's actually to the point now that the government don't give a damn about caregivers because they know they're not going to give a damn going forward anyways, and they're going to let the caregivers continue to smoke, to grow in their backyard. Okay, it's only going to be an occasional local Barney Fife here and there that's even going to care about it any longer. Other than that, I mean, come on, with decriminalization, clearing records, why are they doing these things? Why are they really doing these? Because they made it legal? Don't give me that hogwash. It wasn't legal when you violated their crimes. So don't give me that hogwash. That's almost like saying, in fact, several years back, guy in Troy, right here in Michigan, he robbed a bank. Now, when he robbed a bank, he stopped between the two doors. He never left the bank. He threw the money over to the corner inside the bank, inside the two doors. He never had a gun. He used his finger in his hoodie jacket, and he laid down on all fours, spread eagle, waiting for the police to get there. Now, when the police got there, they arrested him, of course. But when he told the story, he couldn't even get prosecuted, not even federally. Instead, he got help because he didn't want to rob the bank. He wanted somewhere warm to sleep that night. He didn't have a gun to rob the bank. He just wanted to sleep somewhere warm. Now, take that into contrast to where I'm going. What happens if you take that guy that they didn't prosecute and say, okay, if you rob a bank from here on out, we're not going to prosecute you. Everybody gonna rob a bank, man. Everybody gonna rob a bank. And I think that's where we're at now. With the drop of the numbers. I think we're at the point that unless we push the medically and get people to start pushing it along with us so that everyone's doing it, I think the numbers will continue to drop. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not going to be sugarcoat anything for any. I'm too damn old, man. We'll just put it out there. I think that the numbers will continue to drop. I think that the local police ain't going to give a damn. Whether you're growing pot or not growing pot, as long as you're not doing it next to the sidewalk. As long as you're being cautious and careful about it, they're going to be kosher, specifically with the fact that there's recreational marijuana allowed. It just isn't going to matter whether you got your license or don't have your license, whether you got 12 plants or 14 plants. They're not going to care. Not even them 2 plants. Now, if you double or triple up, they're going to care on you. I think at the end of the day, I think where we're at right now, specifically, and I mean specifically, is we're going to drop more numbers. Eagle. We're going to drop more patient numbers. I think that one of the problems we have there is the caregivers collating and figuring out that they need to rotate patients instead of utilizing the same patients year after year after year after year. I think that if patients rotate and learn how to grow for themselves, I think that now we're taking our medical patients and turning them onto growing, and a certain percentage of them are going to become caregivers themselves because they receive the help. And I believe that that alone will put a slowdown on the excess rec. Because I think that there'd be a replacement. I think there's still, regardless, there's still only so much room in the industry. It doesn't matter where it comes from, there's still only so much room. And I think that we need to, again, I'm going to say it, we need to come up with a coalition of caregivers that really do care, not that don't just want to talk about it. You know, guys that are really going to go the extra mile. Without a doubt, I'll tell you this much. One of our vehicles since May did over 50,000 miles caregiving. Just one vehicle. We need people that care. We can all claim to care. We can all look for a toot on the back. We can all want a pat on the horn. I'm kind of a sucker. I got a big problem with Salvation Army people. Whenever I pass one, I put a $20 bill in their little bell ringer thing. It's becoming, yeah, they've had their scandals, but you know, their officers don't take salaries. So somebody there at the Salvation Army, you know what? They care. They care. Because their officers do not take salaries. So somebody cares enough to run it the way it should be ran. Therefore, I can support them paying them guys ringing the bells. I can support that. And it helps the community and it helps them pay them guys. So they care. And I think that we just need people that care. We need people to step up. And I'm going to close on this. And I challenge any caregiver. I challenge any one of you I'll tell you what, for every 1,000 grams you make for your patients, I'll match 2,000. Challenge.
That's a pretty awesome challenge right there.
Yeah, I'll challenge that until I unchallenge it and I run out of energy, but I think I got to run out of breath. And no, we will do what we need to do. People need to care, you guys. You need to care. You really do, because it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your child. Fact. Just fact. Could be your mother, could be your father, could be your neighbor, could be your best friend. We've all had them, we all get them, we all know them. You can always find me if you want some advice at CAO Craft Farms with a Z on Facebook. The private one, please. There's a public one too, but I'm an old man idiot and I made it and don't know how to get rid of it. That's all. We're pretty simple people. You're tuned in with a real good man right here, Eagle. He cares. He won't put you in a position. He'll try to throw you the truth, or put you on someone to throw you the truth. And that speaks loads for itself, guys. I'll come on anytime, as often as I can, as often as the man I have me will share some knowledge. Sooner or later, maybe in the spring when the weather gets a little better, maybe we'll do an oil making batch.
Right on. That would be really cool.
Yeah, maybe we can get an oil making batch. I only do them outside under tents, and unfortunately in the winter time we're moving rather quickly. I don't know if anybody would want to record it. And I think that
I would.
right, Ron. I think that we need to care, guys, for each other, for humanity, for humankind. I think that there's enough screwed up in the world that if you look at Michigan, we're a peninsula. I've got a thing that Michigan, I can. And I think that with everything screwed up in the world, we got a little peninsula to care about. And maybe if we just care just that much more than the next state, maybe it'll just carry on. Maybe we'll become like a disease and spread. And maybe we won't. Maybe I'm an old man with a lot of dreams. But you know what? That's better than none. Better than none. And in the meantime, take your medicine, guys, please. You hit it on a nail. You couldn't hit that, and I don't mean the nail on the head. You hit the nail. You couldn't get that any better. Your inquirer there on the maintenance dose, absolutely. What you'll notice, guys, I'm going to tell you again. You'll start with the rice grain. The whole idea, we skip one of the most important factors. We got to cover it before I go. Sleep. If you're sick, sleep. Your body, your brain is made to work when you're in deep sleep and REM sleep. That's when you will get the healing. That's when your body has its natural healing effect. So sleep is so important. It's pathetic. However, the deep and the REM sleep average just over an hour a day on an 8-hour night. On an 8-hour night. No kidding. But that's when your body is doing its repairs. Endorphins, oxytocins are at its highest levels. Your cannabinoid receptors are at their most openings, most receptive. Everything's in that deep in that realm. And what you'll notice about your medicine is for the first few nights, 1 grain of rice will give you a much better night's sleep. And then you'll notice you might go to 1.5 grains or 2 grains for a few nights. Then you'll notice that you might go to 3 grains for a few nights. And you'll adjust this by your sleep, is what I always suggest. If you're not sleeping well, you're not taking enough, because you need that sleep to wake up refreshed and healed. But you will find your level, guys. Most people that are taking it as a preventative with me are doing 1 or 2 things. They're taking, they max out at about 5 grains One thing you'll notice about these dispensers is they're not tapered. They're very flat at the end. So there's no such thing as a rice grain because rice grains are tapered. So your rice grain is going to be a little larger anyways. But sleep is important, and that's one of the ways if you're going to do a maintenance dose. The other way to do a maintenance dose has nothing to do with sleep, but it will eliminate some pains and some discomforts, whether effectively and quickly. And it'll punch your system. You can get up to a gram at a time by using a 2.4 gram mold or 2.4 ml mold, suppositorily. If you're sick or if you have a loved one sick, you want to punch the system. It's a good way to get 1 to 3, 4 grams a day into their system. And then just give them their sleeper dose to help them sleep at night so that they don't have to go through the day sideways. You don't have to get all screwed up. So there's lots of ways of doing this, lots of ways of taking it. There's lots of diseases that it could be used for, all the way down to MS, autoimmune, cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. You can make yourself great ointments. I mean, just great ointments. There's 3,200 milligrams of fecal in this ointment right here. And it just works so well. Sunburns, windburn, it really don't matter. Dry skin, aches, pains, arthritis, swelling, eczema, psoriasis. Works for about anything. We have a lot of fun with it. But again, you can all make your own oil. There's a lot of ways to do it. The only thing I always suggest, because it is extracted, is make it safely, please. There's ways you can get an inexpensive canopy zip up tent for outside, put a little fan up top blowing downward and away. It'll just take any fumes away from you while the extraction process is happening. And just be careful. Have no open to sources and make your oils. Don't be bashful. Don't worry about screwing up a batch. It happens. I did it once. But that's all it took, one time. Make your medicine, get better, and care about your neighbor. And Eagle, I'm out, brother. I love you, man.
Hold on. Just a couple of things.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to tell you how much, and I told you this when I met you. I got a lot of respect for you, my friend. You know, not just for beating the disease itself, but being a hell of a cannabis warrior. You know, it's sad that it takes people like yourself to go out there and pretty much shake people and get their fucking attention. But it's unfortunately the way it needs to be done right now.
And it needs to be done like that always.
Because
or the message will get lost again.
As we pointed out, the cards are falling. Yeah, who are we gonna leave it up to? The doctors that aren't gonna, they're not gonna flip the case for us. It's gonna be people like yourselves and the people that have the strength to go out and say, hey, this fucking saved my life. And it could save, just like you said, you, your mother, your daughter. We have to fucking have this information out. You know what I mean? And from the bottom of my heart, man, I appreciate you and have a lot of respect for what you do.
Thank you.
And yeah, 100%,
one at a time, brother. One at a time, man. If we can help one at a time, we on a positive upward. Something I've learned about life, it don't matter how fast we go up. When we need a break, let's just not go backwards. Let's go onward for a while, then we'll go up again.
You can take one at a time, but if we get your story out, we can fucking inspire many.
Yeah, sure. We're going to inspire 1,000 out, one at a time. Yeah, amen. Double negative. 1,000 at a time.
All right. With that being said, we'll go ahead and wind this up. So basically, the final end of this is this. The Zoom link that I sent you this evening, you've earned. There's three aspects of the channel. There's this, there's the Weed Nerds World, and then there's the Organic Takeover with Smiley, where he kind of teaches proper soil science and
Okay.
organics method. But the link I sent you this evening is always good now for the Weed Nerd World. Basically, the Weed Nerd World is open to past guests and just past guests only as of tonight's episode 762. So that the combination of who could be there is pretty massive at this point.
Gotcha.
So anytime Wednesday nights at 11 o'clock is the new Weed Nerd World Day. You can always count on that day. You can check in if you check in whenever you like. Any other nights, they're kind of random. Like this evening, I promised it last night, but I'll finish the story in the Weed Nerd World. I usually, like I told you, 11:30 to 4:20 is the time span. If we don't go that long, I pick up and finish out the night with the Weed Nerd World. You know what I mean? I still finish the time slot. So they're random, but there is one scheduled night you can count on. So, and at that point, yes, I would love to do another one-on-one because I 100%.
I think we can get into some subjects to help some folks with their cultivation, with their soil. There's a lot of different variations we can go to help folks.
Oh, that will be really awesome. So keep that in mind with the link for just to come hang out and get the message across. Whatever you want to do, always open to have new people, new conversation. So keep that in mind until the next one-on-one. Hey,
I'm going to bring in Nick Forrest. He was actually scheduled to speak at the canceled event. Now he's got a trach, but he can speak just fine. Just not for a very extended time. I'd like him to come talk to you because I think he can help get the message out.
I would love that.
Good.
The final thing I'd like to get from you, and it's probably the cheesiest moment and probably of the channel, but I love it and I'm never gonna stop. Basically, what to finish this up is I'm looking for a soundbite. At one point, this will be a commercial for the replay of this episode. Basically, what I'm looking for, my version of is, hey, this is Eagle, and I'm on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 763. You can say whatever you want before, after, I don't care, as long as you're reminding him of that. I'm good with whatever you say. With that being said, I am ready for your soundbite right now, my friend. This is a terrible time for freeze. I don't know if it's me or him. It's gotta be me. Shit. Is it him or is it me, guys? I can't tell. Is it he's frozen? Yes, he's frozen. Maybe he dropped out. Wow. No sound bite. Money ending though, right? All right, guys. Empty your bladders, fill your trays. I will see you guys in a few minutes in the Weed Nerd World. With that being said, thank you very much, Chuck, for coming and hanging out with me this evening. Very powerful story. And when his episode, when the documentary comes out, you guys are going to have to check that out 100%. With that being said, the most important part, and I think you get this every night, but don't forget, do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness really do save lives. I myself am a living, breathing example of that. With that being said, I will see you guys in a few. Peace.